Hi, folks. Thanks for taking the time to come by and check out my content. For those of you that don't know, my name is Robert. Um, I'm a little bit tired. It's about 3 o'clock in the morning. I ran across this about 10 o'clock yesterday morning now. Um, and really, it's had me upset most of the day. I've actually gone through a wide range of emotions and really looked at this. And it took some time to sort out exactly what has happened here. But I believe I've pieced it together pretty well. Um, uh, what I'm going to be going over here is a channel called Level One Woke. It's a relatively new um, YouTube channel, but there's something that was done that I didn't recognize at first, but like I said, I've thought about it today and I've really looked at this. So I hope you'll take the time and indulge me. In this, I'm going to end up showing I went and did a podcast. It's been probably, um, I don't know, 6 months ago now, easy 6 months ago, something like that. And it was the first time I had ever gone into anything that resembled a studio. And, uh, I met two gentlemen that I had never met before. Um, I'm real vocal about the flat earth thing to people I know. And people I meet, I try to plant seeds. But the people that I know all are full aware of how I feel about things. Anyway, an acquaintance of mine and my wife, she, used to work with us. She said, "Hey, I know this guy that's got this YouTube channel, and it's a new YouTube channel, and he wants to do something on flat Earth. He's like a truther or whatever. Would you be interested?" And I said, "Certainly." And to give you a time reference on this, it wasn't too long after Flat Earth Fokker went and did that thing and was analyzed on Beyond the Imaginary Curve. So that can pinpoint for those that are familiar. It was about a week or so um, after his interaction with someone was analyzed by Dell on Beyond the Imaginary Curve. I was contacted by this girl, and she approached me about this. It took uh, probably, best I can remember, it probably took 2 weeks after that, and I was finally able to get a time to go over and see this guy. I ride a bike for my transportation, and he was about 10 miles away. So I rode my bike over there 10 miles, spent about 3 hours doing this podcast, and that's another point. I didn't even look at spent about 3 hours doing this podcast, or it was 3 hours doing this podcast, which, okay, it's still about 3 hours. Spent 3 hours doing this podcast, and then, of course, had to ride back home or whatever. And I didn't really realize at the time this guy, well, let me go ahead and show you his channel here as I go through this. Okay, and this is, you're really going to get a kick out of this, but this, let me see. Okay, this is this guy's channel, right? And what, when I went to go do this, let me go ahead and go to his videos. Okay, now he's got a 110. I don't remember how many subscribers he had at the time. If I took this guy as genuine, so I didn't really do a lot of things that I would do now, seeing how this all played out. But let me go through this. When I went and did this, he had just put up this video right here. I don't know if you can see. It's um, the straw man video. I believe that's the one that he had just put up, like either the day of or something like that. That I went and did this podcast with him, right? And immediately after I did this podcast, this guy's name is Joe Bankston. Now, he had a gentleman with him, Brandon, and Brandon to me seemed 100% completely genuine, real guy, got nothing bad to say about this guy. After I did this podcast, he also edited Joe Bankston's videos up until this point. Um, I went and did this podcast, and for whatever reason, I'm pretty sure because of the conversation that went on during the podcast, they had a falling out of some kind or another, and um, Brandon ended up not editing this video. Okay, this was 100% Joe Bankston. Okay, that did the editing on this. In no way do I think Brandon was any way involved. Okay, and you'll be able to tell from the interaction. The actual podcast I've sped up to 2 times. But anyway, let me go through this so I can keep this kind of cohesive for you. Okay, so he had published this right here, right? This straw man video. I went and did my podcast, and then they had the falling out. So he was like, "Well, I'm having trouble editing." And Brandon sent him over the film, and he said that's the last he touched it. Okay, the recordings and everything for him to lay out the video, right? So time goes on, and Joe puts up this video on the 9/11 and the Kennedy assassination and the MK Ultra stuff, and by this time, like I said, I don't remember exactly, but it was way better than a month. I'm thinking like a month and a half almost after I did this podcast. That finally he put up, my video, right? That of the podcast, our interaction that we have. Now, when I was first approached about this wasn't really supposed to be a debate. I told him I'd be happy to come in and talk to him, and I wanted it to be more of a discussion about, things. And, he gave me the impression at the time that it wasn't an ambush attempt. Okay. So I went and did this podcast with him. And I don't remember exactly. I watched a couple of his videos. This guy isn't a truther. He's a fraud. He gets so many facts wrong. It's unbelievable. Okay. But I had watched him a little bit during his 9/11. And I think the last one I watched was his Kennedy. And it became really clear that this isn't some guy I'm going to seek out for information. So I more or less stopped watching his stuff. Right. But anyway, in these next 2 videos, which somehow he already had or something, because you'll tell the editing. If you go back and look at this guy's channel, you can tell that these didn't have a problem with the editing, but he mentions in them that he's wants to do something to the effect of he's going to do a flat Earth, and he kind of led on in these other podcasts that happened after um, I was did the podcast with him. These were done after that, but they were uploaded before my podcast. Okay, so in other words, he set the stage for him to attack me, like an ambush on flat Earth or whatever. But at the time, I wasn't aware of it. When I went and looked at his previous content, there was no indication that he was going to do something like this. Okay, if that makes sense. I hope I explained it well. But anyway, so he went and put up this video, claimed, not being able to edit it correctly or whatever. But if you look at all of his other content on his channel, everything else appears to be fine. But very short, if you go back and look at the original podcast with me and him, in a very short time, within the first, 5 minutes, the sound becomes off. Okay. And when it first happened, I was just like, this guy sucks. Okay. And I actually just rewatched it, what I've screen recorded of it for like the third or fourth time today, and really paid attention to some things. And there was some parts that were edited out, and I'm not going to give a commentary through the whole thing. I'm going to let most of it run, but there's a few points, and there may have been even additional stuff that was taken out, but there's a couple points here that I'll stop during it and highlight a couple things. Okay. And If I'm getting long-winded, just uh, bear with me for a second. I want to properly set this stage so you can see what you're looking at. Okay, so during the replay, I'm going to stop it a couple times and point out where actually sections of the podcast were taken out, but because the voice in the um, in the film part of it weren't synchronized, it was real subtle. Okay, so this wasn't a matter of somebody just not being able to edit. It was very, very cleverly edited, and it was highly, highly concealed. Okay, uh, and it's really treacherous, and it really makes me wonder. The timing of it seems really, really strange, right? If you go back and look at my channel, some of the things I had put out prior to this, they're not parrots of other flat earth channels. And I feel after looking at this several times today that, I really struck a nerve, and I feel like this was an actual attack. And the future of this guy's channel, a deceiver like this shouldn't be able to grow to any kind of substantial whatever. So I unsubbed to this dude after he wouldn't rectify the problem, re-edit the video and everything like that. It was really kind of upsetting, right? And so I unsubbed to him, right? Didn't watch any more of his stuff. Left his content alone, right? Okay, and if you look at this timeline right here, right, he did a few things, and then he did mine, okay, which was the poorly edited thing, right? And then he went about a month and did a piece of content. I don't really know what this was about. And then 3 weeks ago on September 1st, he put up this. Okay. So we're talking a considerable time, right? He hadn't put up content in months. He probably saw if he doesn't directly have access to who I'm subscribed to, or his subscribers actually who they are, or some kind of inside information. He had clearly waited long enough that he figured that I wouldn't come back to his content, that he could do the shit he put on September 1st and get away with it. Okay. And earlier this morning, I had a feeling, uh, you know, sometimes you just get those feelings, right? And I had this feeling, I should just go back and check out this guy's channel. I hadn't been back there in months, right? And I saw that he had put something up on, September 1st. So I decided to watch it, right? And I may make an additional hit piece and go back through all this guy's content because he's completely full of shit, wrong on hundreds of fucking different things that I've found. But he's really not worth the time. But I want to highlight actually what's being done. And I think this may have actually been an attack, right? So, anyway, I'm watching through this and I get to an hour and 26 minutes. What I'm going to first highlight in this. And I couldn't believe not only did he lie, he misrepresented me. Okay, and last week I was watching, or week before last I was watching Dell and the Beyond the Imaginary Curve, and he had cited Rambo, right? The first one, not the ones that they messed up, right? And there was a thing in there where he said that they drew first blood. Okay, I was content to let this guy put up a poorly edited video. I realized afterwards that I had been ambushed, that he was attempting to make me look stupid or crazy or a conspiratard or something like that. With his subsequent stuff that he put up, which on his timeline looks like it happened previously, like I was accepting a challenge and that he was saying the whole time he was going to smash the globe if you go back and look at his content in chronological order, but it didn't happen that way, right? So anyway, let me go ahead and get to the point of this. Now, I screen recorded, but if you go to, great, now my mouse isn't going to work. It's okay. I'll use this. If you go to this piece right here, this is where I'm taking this first clip out of. And then when I show you the podcast at 2 times speed, because the audio and the visual being out of sync, it actually becomes quite funny when you listen to it. But anyway, let me go ahead and play this first part, and then I'll come back and then we'll do the do the other part of this. Okay. So this is what I'm taking this from. Okay. All right. Let me go ahead and pause that because I already have it screen recorded. Let me bring that up. You see, it's going to fight me. It's okay. Okay, so this is what we're looking at now. I'm going to show you the comment. This was early this morning, like I said, I don't know, around 10 o'clock or something like this when I did this recording. So let's go ahead and take a look at it. And it's just unbelievable. I paused down here for what I left, for a comment. This was like a knee-jerk reaction after I heard this, and of course I recorded it after I left the comment, and spent the rest of the day exactly what had happened, what I was really looking at. All right, so let me go ahead and do this, and then we'll continue on with this. Oh, fair use. All things used in this are used under fair use for educational purposes.
And shit, Neanderthals are still here.
Oh, let me pause on this real quick too. Okay, if you guys do go back to watch this, these two guys right in here, any of you people of color, if you go back and watch this whole podcast, you tell me, as a black man, if you would sit there and let this guy run over you and talk to you like this for this entire podcast. Okay, this one's 2 hours long, and just think to yourself that how realistic are these guys portraying these parts here? Okay, two other things real quick on this. In the lower right hand corner there, the guy that's closest to the camera in that particular window. At one point during this, he just starts saying science, science. Okay, it's really not natural where he says that. And towards the end of this clip, after this guy misrepresents me and shows what he's about, and pay attention to their faces as you watch it. Not one time do these people look towards the camera. Okay, watch Joe. He's in this. This is Joe right here. This fucking deceiver. Damn mouse, man. I broke it. This guy right here. Okay. Watch him when he gets towards the end of this. After he does a hit on me. Look at his mannerisms. Okay, and then suddenly he gets up like he's got called over. Okay, there's someone else in this room that there's no indication of like someone happening to come in or anything like that. This guy just all of a sudden gets up and goes over like he's been instructed on something, or like, nice job, yeah, that was okay. You know what I mean? And stuff like that. So anyway, let me go ahead and go through this, and we'll get on with this.
Everybody in this room and everybody in the world has a percentage of Neanderthal DNA in them. So they didn't die. We outbred them, and we could have diluted their species on purpose and bred them down to destroy them, maybe without killing them. But that's what happened. The only people that don't have Neanderthal DNA in them, which this is why they think life started in Africa, are sub-Saharan Africans. Sub-Saharan Africans are the only ones that don't have Neanderthal DNA in them. Damn. To this day. They never left Africa. That's why.
10 toes down.
Shout out to Africa.
10 toes down, nigga.
Shout out to Africa. Shout out to Kim, Kenya.
Mama,
Shout out to the National Republic of the Congo.
Yeah. Zimbabwe.
He looking.
Nigeria.
Uganda.
Libya.
Uganda.
You know Madagascar is wild, bro. That's a little
Madagascar.
island.
Chad. Chad.
Moran.
Shout out to all the zebras.
Nigeria.
Morocco.
Somalia.
That's all I got.
Ethiopia.
I could probably name at least 10 countries or 20 countries out of Africa.
Besides the ones you just named?
No, including the ones I just named, asshole. Or else I would have said 30, bitch. But yeah, I mean, I did some research. I like to look at that map. I got the globe there for a reason because it's
Here it
definitely not
comes.
flat Earth, which I had a flat earther on, and he was unconvincible. I presented more facts of the Earth being round than he did. Which he didn't say he was a flat earther. He said he was a globe denier, that we're not on a globe that's spinning in space. But he couldn't prove it. And then he tried to deny the ice wall, the flat Earth, and the ice wall in Antarctica. And then eventually I got him to open up about it, and he started talking about the ice wall. I'm like, oh, so you do believe it? And I caught him on a few times. Like, you know me, persistent as fuck.
You know me.
Yeah, nah.
You know me,
I'm
baby.
gonna get it out eventually. I was pressuring him. Brandon's like, calm down. I was like, bro, he's spending 30 minutes editorializing about one question without even giving me a 30-second answer. Like, come on, skip the story, bitch. Give me your answer. Like,
So you called me a bitch.
Tell me.
I
He
started.
drew
I
first
wanna
blood,
know.
motherfucker.
I mean, I liked it. It was intellectual though. I mean, I liked it. It was intellectual. He was arguing from an educated standpoint. The dude was in his 50s. He's been on 2 shows in the UK. Shout out to Robert Matthews. He signed my board. But yeah, the Earth's not flat, my dude.
Yeah,
dun, dun, dun,
I
dun.
dig the ball.
I don't subscribe to that.
All right. So if you don't think the Earth is flat, this is a few things that you can do to prove that the Earth is round. And I think Hippocrates and the
hypocrisy
a few of the
was credited with starting
ancient
medicine. He's
Greek
a fucking
astrologers,
moron.
they figured the circumference of the
Hippocrates.
Earth within like 3 degrees, like they were fucking perfect, and they were just measuring shadows at equinoxes or shit like that. And
Solstices.
yeah, solstices and equinoxes.
Here we go.
And
He's
they were
about
measuring
to do it.
shadows.
Ancestors were doing
And not only that,
too,
all right.
nigga.
If you're wondering right now if the Earth is flat or round,
All
if
around
you're
the
wondering
world.
right now
Oh, he's about to.
if the Earth is flat or
He
round,
kept trying
and
to
you wanna-
attach me
you
as
wanna-
fucking
you want a
straw man.
project you can do at
Listen to
home
this
to prove it
bullshit.
yourself that it's round, this is the most simplest thing I can come up with, and it's facts, right? Go to the countryside or anywhere that's an open plain. All right? Lay down on your back. Watch the sunset on the horizon. This is your horizon. The sunset's behind the horizon. The sun's coming down. Watch the sunset behind that horizon.
Look what
Once
he's
it
about
sets,
to do.
stand
He's
up.
about to tuck
You
the
can
sun
get a
under the
second
pizza
glimpse of that
dish.
sun. That can only happen on a curvature Earth, around Earth.
That was
Because
his
if it's
intent.
flat, it's underneath it. You ain't gonna see it again.
Watch this.
Yeah, but since it's that curvature, you'll still get a second glimpse of that sun still there. It
No
only
no
happens
flat
on
earther
Earth.
thinks
Anybody
the
can
sun
do that at home.
disappears under the
There's
earth.
suspension
You hear?
bridges in New
Science.
York, California, all over the world that were
Science.
constructed with the conception of the Earth being round in the construction. They had to take in that idea. The Crossrail tunnels in London, they're so long that they had.
So
to
we'll
account for
see
the
here
curvature
if
of
he
the Earth.
owned me or not.
Snipers,
And if I ever fucking
That's
said
not even. The
that's
Sumerians knew the
bullshit,
Earth was
fucking
round when
straw
they
man.
depicted our
Ice
solar
wall,
system on their
dome.
tablets, and they had Nibiru, the planet from the Anunnaki, which is verified by NASA now, and they're calling it Planet X.
Sundisk planet. The winged planet. Something like that planet.
See? Look at that.
Yeah.
You see that?
But so what do you think about like the whole Anunnaki? Do you believe
He doesn't
what's going
think well
with
on
that or
his
no?
feet either, does he?
So,
You see that?
I'm here to say this.
And these
I
guys,
wasn't there, so
the
I
guy
don't
that's
know,
talking
but
doesn't even look
it's a
over.
possibility. I mean, why not? Them guys, they like you said, they created all this stuff, right? Law, roads, cities, all this shit.
See
But
the guy in the
we're
back
gonna
cross
give them
his
credit
arms
for
like,
that, but
hey,
then
yeah, our
discredit
mission's
them
accomplished.
for where they say they got the information from, like, it's kind of kooky.
Exactly. That's what I think also. I think they're so credible for like all the shit that they established and all their inventions. But then when it
Mission
comes to their
accomplished.
history of the creation of man, we discredit them because they talk about aliens coming from another planet and genetically, engineering us. Which
So I find-
coincidentally, those stories basically, you can see them told through the same thing over.
Okay, so that's it on that. Right, one more look at my comment here. Okay, so this guy said that I offered no proof of the globe, or no proof that we weren't on a globe, that he presented way more evidence to show that we were in fact on a globe, that I failed to make the case for the level stationary Earth, that at first I denied the ice wall, but after his intensive interrogation, his hard-hitting fact-finding, that somehow, he he's he's completely full of shit. That somehow he won over the conversation. Okay, um, so this is the actual podcast sped up at 2 times speed. Now, the first time that I listened to this, um, I just thought that, you know, that I clearly made my point for everything. Okay. The second time I watched it, I noticed something. I'll point it out in here when I was giving the example. I'm sure a lot of people know they always try to use the ship disappearing over the horizon or whatever. And they uh, uh, they get really stumped when you talk to them about the flat horizon, with a distance spanning across from left to right, far greater than 3 to 5 miles. Now, you'll be able to tell from my hand gestures, I'll just pause it for a second in that part, but that I was um, uh, explaining that. And I actually went into great detail to explain the left to right phenomenon. Okay, that part was cut out. But you can't really tell with the voice and everything being out of sync. But I only remembered about it because of my hand gestures, and I remembered what I was explaining at that time. Uh, Later on in the video, there's another part that's taken out when I go into depth on why the tin bath in a float glass manufacturing plant actually proves a level plane. You feel free to go and check out my content. The flat Earth not up for debate anymore. And I go into detail, especially in the supporting video evidence of exactly. And I didn't go into a full blown, but I explained the process enough so they would understand. And that was taken out. And the one other thing that I noticed here at the end, I really don't remember the end of the conversation, but I had told people, hey, look, if you want to go and investigate this, this is what you should do. Okay. Now, you'll be able to tell from these barrage of questions that he continuously asks me and tries to. Um, uh, it seems like a really mix, and I didn't realize the extent to which this guy was trying to play me. Okay, he continuously attempted to change the subject, but he also threw out nonsense, um, uh, conspiracy theories that, in hindsight, if I had gone down the rabbit hole or gotten caught up in the moment or whatever, and I'd played along with him, he would have been able to paint a far different picture of me. But during this action, he wasn't able, even though he repeatedly tried, he wasn't able to knock me off my game because I've really researched what I research. I'm not just going around watching YouTube videos thinking the earth is flat. Okay, I've proven to myself that it can only be a level stationary plane. So anyway, I hope you enjoy this. I'm going to remain quiet through most of this. Like I said, I'm just going to stop it a couple times briefly to point out where, in fact, something was edited that I can tell. Now, like I said, because of it being out of sync and it being such a long conversation, I really can't tell anything else if it was put in different places. This was obviously done by someone very skillful, not the naive gentleman he portrayed himself to me as. Okay, this, oh, I'm helpless. I'm having a hard time with the editing. This was a very skillful attempt to paint a very different picture than what actually happened, and what were concrete proofs in this were edited out. So anyway, let me go ahead and do this, and I hope you enjoy. It's really funny the way.
Thing that you believe in. Like, there's a thing that we experience. It's called cognitive dissonance, right? When
Hold
we're
on a
confronted with
second.
something that is
I'm
completely
in
against
totally
everything else
the
that we
wrong
know,
place
right?
here.
And it's a defense mechanism to immediately.
Okay, so hopefully I'm back to recording. Sorry about that. All right, here we go. Once again, this is at 2 times speed. This is, and keep in mind, okay, like I said, this is my first time that I ever did something like this. If in being under the pressure that I was under, if anybody wants to critique me, just try to keep that in mind, okay? And it was, to be honest with you, it caused me quite a bit of anxiety because I knew that potentially other people would look at this, and having just reviewed Fokker's interaction, his very poor interaction, which may or may not have been deliberate. It looks like he's running with the same common purpose crowd, so you form your own judgment, but that's not about this isn't about him. So let me go ahead and let this run and get me a cigarette and enjoy this. Everything's going to give me a problem. All right, here we go.
Thing that you believe in. Like, there's a thing that we experience, it's called cognitive dissonance, right? When you're confronted with something that is completely against everything else that you know, right? And it's a defense mechanism to immediately reject it outright, okay? Because it's contrary to your operating system, you know what I mean? And
it's almost like a form of ignorance. It's kind of how people hate what they don't understand. Like,
well, that's true. That's true.
It could be in one sense of it, I guess, but it could also be a good thing.
Right. It could be. Well, we have filters in our brain that allow us to drive down the road without reading every billboard, even though we're conscious of every sign that we see. If we didn't have those filters on, our life would be so confusing, especially in this day and age. We'd be overwhelmed and incapable of doing anything. You know what I mean? And it's kind of like anyway, so I went out and I was like, who can I talk this to? Who can I say this to? And I looked around and there was nobody that was on my level at work, I mean, and so I went back, and for the rest of the day, I just kept on listening to more, I guess you call them flat earth videos, right? And I just kept on listening to more and more. And I went home and I couldn't even tell my wife about it at first, okay? I couldn't believe what I was hearing. And after a couple of days, I did. And I was like, I got to talk to you, and when I first told her, she was like, and then I started telling her about some of the things that I'd heard, and she's like, oh, wow, that makes sense, and she's like, I never really thought, I never really fully believed what I was told in school, that, and I guess part of me didn't either, I was thinking about people in Australia.
Schools just indoctrinate.
Yeah, for sure.
It's not like a real learning process. Learning was reserved for the elites and elites' children. We don't have real education.
No, nothing like education. And in fact, if you think about, and we're not the only country that's educated this way, right? If you think about it, when we go to school when we're young, okay, we're fed a narrative, okay, and we're told this, and we're supposed to memorize it and regurgitate it, right? And
then once you memorize it enough and you regurgitate it enough, they judge you on it. They give you a
right,
grade on it.
right, they give you a grade on it. And if you fail to conform to the narrative or ask questions or go outside the bounds of
One additional thing, something you may miss, as this talk goes through, this guy over here, right? Pay attention to his hands, okay? How nervous he is and what's going on during this. It was something that I just recently picked. Anyway, let me go ahead and do this.
the narrative, right? You're going to fail, right? And you fail enough classes, then you know your parents, okay? So the most important person in your life peer pressures you into conforming to this narrative.
I mean, they signed you away, your rights away with that birth certificate anyway, unknowingly.
Unknowingly. But it's so you're rewarded for regurgitating the narrative throughout your life.
Good job. Here's an A.
Here's an A.
Yeah.
You're good, okay? And you go through your entire school, and this is a conditioning. This is a thought process that you're instilled with, and it's really to make you an obedient worker.
Yeah.
Okay. It's to make
Sure,
you.
I agree. Yeah. It's to conform you. See what the school systems do, where they indoctrinate people to perform duties and perform tasks and to take orders on a certain level, but they don't want you to question and seek above your class or seek above your authority or anything like that. It's not the way it was set up. So the school system is a whole fucking episode right there. Like we have. We got the best military, but the worst school system. Come on, not the worst, but out of developed world, we have out of all the developed countries. Sorry for saying world, but out of all the developed countries, we have the worst education system. So
right, and it's very true.
The best army.
No, it's
what Martin Luther King said. He said a country that continues to spend more money on national defense than education or social uplifting is bound for doom, and that's basically what we've been doing for years now. That's crazy. I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, you didn't at all. No, you didn't at all.
It reminded me of that, so it struck a memory.
No, you're good. You should jump in because like I did on my little.
Get carried away. Yeah. We're here. Listen, I get carried away listening. Like really? Oh,
No, it's interesting.
Yeah, for sure.
But I don't know. So and on the education thing, right? And to show that the education is 100% indoctrination, there's something called the trivium that was removed from our education. Okay.
Yeah, you were talking about that earlier.
Right. And if you look at classical education, I would assume that the elites are still educated in this. It's my guess.
For sure.
I've heard that Jesuit schools still educate in this fashion. Or I don't know how true that is. I haven't.
Can we find out? That's true?
Yeah, I haven't checked.
What is it called again?
It's the trivium. Okay.
Trivium.
Right. And I've just started looking into the trivium, but there's something called the quadrivium that's even beyond that.
Whoa.
But the trivium is
and the quadrivium is what you said.
Yeah,
the
quadrivium. And I can't really speak on that at all. But the trivium.
Sure I had the name right.
Yeah, but the trivium is it's grammar, logic, and rhetoric. And essentially, what it does is it teaches you how to communicate. Right. Obviously, with grammar, the larger vocabulary, the more you can express yourself, the more fine detail you can get with your conversation. Right.
Also.
Right. Logic tells you how to intelligently interpret what you're hearing and how to formulate your what you're trying to say in a sound, reasonable manner. Right. So we can communicate. Right. And then the rhetoric.
Sounds like the highest form of communication, like from a academic level almost. Like
right.
That sounds right. So
right. And if
you now that you're explaining it.
Right. No. And if you go back to like Socrates and Plato or whatever, they also had something called sophists. Okay. And sophists were it's a real fancy word for a liar. Okay. But they were sophisticated argumenters.
So they were fibbers.
They were, but they did so in such a way, okay? It's kind of like government propaganda, okay?
Yeah,
they did so in such a way it felt good going down, okay? That it was palatable to you, that they could tell you an outright lie or make false associations or do things like, I'll give you an example, right? People for thousands of years have done this, okay? That's like an appeal to history or consensus or, this is the way the government has always done it. It appeals to authority. They really don't have any grounding.
So is it like a verbal appeal or?
Yeah, yeah. It's
right.
the technical term I believe is like logical fallacies. They sound good, okay, but they're like a red herring or appeals to authority or appeals to consensus. Like if me and you were talking, right? I shouldn't have to say, well, NASA says this.
Yeah.
Okay.
But you saying that you shouldn't have to say that, what would the proper analogy or the proper terminology be?
Well, if I have to bring NASA in as my witness,
That just means somebody might not be educated as well as you.
that's true. That's true.
I mean, that's how I'm taking it.
Right, that's true. But when you use that as your source of information, I mean, that is your proof, right?
Do I know what we like to tell people about NASA? Do you know the NASA symbol with it's got the red lines going through it.
Right.
It's shaped like a serpent's tongue.
Right.
You heard that whole serpent's theory about no? All right, so if he shows you the NASA image right now, and you'll see the NASA circle, and you'll see the red lines through it. It's shaped like a serpent's tongue. And from what we get from the Bible and biblical and serpents are they're bad, they're evil. They're
Here
not good.
comes
As far as what
some
was
of
it, the
the-
serpent that went to and told Adam to do this? So
Anyway.
they're projecting like an image that it's not good, basically.
Okay.
So to me, a serpent in that standpoint is not good.
Right. No, I know exactly what you're talking about.
So NASA in Hebrew is
It's to deceive.
To deceive, not
Right.
to deceive.
Right.
And who was it that sent us to the moon that built that first rocket, Brandon?
Werner von Braun.
That guy.
Yeah.
He was Nazi, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what the
Operation
deception.
Paperclip,
Maybe
yeah.
that's what the deception could be about. That's probably why.
This guy's a Nazi. Yeah. That's
But that's not the original NASA logo either. So it was changed for a reason. But what you were, you can go back to what you were saying on that.
I don't know. I was going to go to the moon, but we'll wait.
He's like, hold on, let's get into this. I'm ready.
I was kind of reading on that trivium stuff.
Trivium,
so
yeah.
what you were
I was
saying
getting to
about like if you want to make the argument, like, something
This is
like,
just the beginning of his
Yeah,
conversation
that's it.
diversion.
Right.
It's
You
just
should know that.
Right. I should be the
That
authority.
trivium is like you shouldn't have to rely on like anyone else's
Right.
info but your own.
I mean, I got that, but that's what I was saying, that they could just be less educated if they don't know the info you know. You can't rely on information you don't know.
Right.
So
You can't
do you
be
take,
having-
does that, I mean, do you take somebody's word for it at that point, or how do you handle that situation?
I cross-check a lot, okay? And it's, if something rings true to me, okay, I'll investigate it. If something sparks my curiosity, I'll investigate it. And I investigate what I've heard from the angle that they're talking about, and then I go and try to debunk it, okay?
Sure.
Or
That's how I think anything should be done.
You know what I
Same
mean?
thing.
I'll gather as much as I can from the side that kind of made sense to me.
I mean, do you automatically look at things to debunk it, or do you look at it as far as research and then you start seeing enough holes in the research that you debunk it?
No, I
Automatically.
can
He's like,
say
nope.
Are you,
I automatically
have
don't
you
believe
studied
it.
this at all? The trivium. So it's basically he said the grammar, the logic, the rhetoric. The grammar basically is the who, what, where, why, right? The form of logic answering why of a subject, and then the classic rhetoric provides of how of a subject. So basically, it's like discovering the order of the facts, right? That's like the first step. Compromise basic systematic knowledge. Your basic knowledge of stuff, and then developing a faculty of reason in establishing valid, non-contradictory relationships among facts.
Oh,
is
so it's
systematic.
non-contradictory relationship between
Like
facts.
your facts got to be 100% on every little thing,
Right.
basically, and then applying the knowledge and understanding expressly compromises wisdom, or in other words, it is systematically usable knowledge and understanding.
Right.
So
And
That's based off the point of view of one person's knowledge, or
this is a way that people in the past were taught to learn, okay? They were taught to formulate.
so basically, if somebody don't know something as you don't speak to them, or
No, but you
like,
would
fuck
be-
y'all are.
No,
That
but
sounds
you-
like some elite shit, though. That sounds like the way the elite would be raised.
it
That's why
does.
we're not on their
It's
level.
basically-
That's why there's a 2%. Or,
what I'm getting from it is like, don't get into a conversation basically unless you know
What side are you on? Wiki?
exactly what you're talking about.
Wiki? Wikipedia?
Wikipedia. No, this is triviumeducation.com.
Look in there and see if they have anything in regard to
But that's a .com.
sophists.
.coms put whatever they want to make money. .orgs or whatever.
Well, sure, I'm just reading you.
No, I'm not saying it's not
That's
bullshit, but I'm
I-
just saying, all right, now I'm like, all right.
So interesting though, they have this. I'm just kind of
Okay, go
reading
ahead.
while you guys were kind of talking, just because the trivium thing is really interesting to me. They have like a right angle triangle here, and then on the backside is trivium. The fourth is the quad trivium, and then the biggest line is senses. So it's almost like maybe it's how do you explain it? I don't know what this quad trivium thing is, but
I haven't looked too much into that. It seemed to me a format and a way to learn.
I think all of those together, you should be like killing every conversation or you get into if you know this trivium, quad trivium stuff. That's just what this is basically.
Right, and there's people that are putting forth the narrative that we hear every day that are educated on this.
yeah, probably.
Right. And
More than likely.
I would say that there's a fair amount of also sophists.
That's kind of like 48 laws of power. Like, it's like
I've
some
heard some of that.
manipulation to the, if they're not knowledgeable as you are.
Right,
that's
I've heard about
that's
some of
what
that, and it
it
sounds
is.
really cruel. Like, I'm not a step on you to get my grapes off the tree
I
kind
mean,
of
these
guy.
people that are taught this trivium, that's what these people are, though.
Right, that's
and that's
probably
the people
true.
that study trivium, that's what they are.
That's probably true, but I think that in this day and
Sacred
age,
knowledge, you think?
I think that's what I'm kind of getting at this.
But why would it be on that website if it was?
Well, just like, well, not,
Sorry.
not saying that it's that it's like I think it's just something that they don't put in your everyday school.
Right,
Who's
yeah.
to say that this is bullshit just because they don't teach it in school every day? That's
Right.
what I'm saying.
Well,
Just from what I'm
It
reading.
might have some weight to it. I mean, a lot of that shit sounds plausible.
well, I think that they're.
I mean, as you explain it or hear it, you can understand it. So if you understand it, that means it must hold some weight. But I'm
well,
skeptical about everything. So
if you were engaged in a conversation with someone, right, and they were taught this right here.
example right now, give an example.
No, not
I
really.
was kind of explaining like what.
I'm just saying, if you were engaged, let's say someone was telling you
But
a
I'm
story.
saying you're giving an example of how this works is what you're doing right now.
No, I'm saying that I believe this is important, and I believe it was removed from our education for a reason.
But how do you use it in everyday life?
I realize that there's very, very skilled liars, okay, and that they use argument techniques that, because I wasn't educated in it, I don't recognize it for what it is, okay?
Trickery.
It's trickery,
Yeah.
and I don't realize that when you appeal to an authority, or you appeal to a consensus, or you send me off on a side shoot,
You're entering into contracts?
Unknowingly? No, I do not understand. I stand
Yeah,
on nothing.
exactly.
This topic
But-
makes Joe very
but, you know,
uncomfortable.
if you're not aware of this, okay, you can be fed a narrative. Like, you don't know how many times I've heard scientists say, okay, scientists have done this, okay, and scientists, and I'm, okay, well, Can I break something down real quick?
ahead, yeah.
Okay,
It's all yours.
All right. When I talk about science, right? Because I don't want to talk past each other here. Okay, I want you to really get what I'm saying. Okay?
I question a lot, so I might have a lot of questions. But
Oh, that's okay. All right. When I'm talking about science, there's basically sciences in 3 different parts. Okay. And when you hear about science, especially when people are appealing to authority, attempting to mislead you, a lot of times they just say science. Okay. There's natural science, there's formal science, and there's social science. Okay. Natural science is like biology, medicine, different things. They're practical. You can measure something, you can test something. It's tangible.
That's
okay?
science.
That's science.
Yeah.
Okay. But that's natural science. Okay.
That's basically physical science.
Yeah,
almost.
yeah. And I just call it natural
Oh,
science.
yeah, no,
Okay,
that sounds right. I got what you mean.
Okay.
Exactly. That
All
sounds
right.
right.
And then you've got formal science. Okay, formal science is things like mathematics. Okay, it's a language, it's a descriptor. It can be used to quantify things. It's but it's also based on axioms and premises that, if false, okay, can paint a picture that's not tied to reality. Okay, math is a language.
Okay.
Okay, and any language can lie.
Okay.
Okay, that's really
But math is more than a language, though. Every other language ain't just more than a language. It's a way of communication. Math is a lot more than that, though.
right. Math is.
So to
Okay,
say,
I'll give you an example. Okay, it's a real quick example. Right, you guys like or I'll challenge you with this. Right, 3 guys walk into a hotel room or into a hotel. Right, the front desk clerk has taken a break. The bellboys at the front desk. Right, the 3 guys walk into the hotel and ask for a room, and the bellman tells them it's $30. Each guy gives the bellman $10. He puts money in the register, takes their bags, takes them up to the room. They stiff him. They don't give him a tip. He goes back down. He's a little happy, upset about that or whatever. Front desk guy comes back and he's like, anybody come in? Yeah, 3 guys came in. I gave him a room. I had to use a rollaway bed. He goes, oh, you should only charge him $25 then, not 30. And he's like, oh, okay. And he gives him back 5 $1 bills, and he sends them up to go give him back their money. Okay. On the way up the elevator, the guy's like, they didn't tip me anyway. I don't know how to divide 5 into 3. I don't know how to divide 5 into 3. He sticks $2 in his pocket, and he gives each one of the guys back a $1 bill. Okay. Now each one of the guys have now paid $9 a piece, right? Which 3 times 9 is 27, plus the 2 that he stuck in the pocket is 29.
Okay.
Where's the missing $1?
repeat that.
Okay. 3 guys give $10 each. Okay. The bellman
He
gives.
stuck 2 in his pocket and he gave 3 back, so that's 5.
No.
After they
He gave each guy back $1.
right,
Which means that
right.
each guy
the
paid.
room. Listen, the room came out to $30. Right. There's
No,
3
listen
guys.
to the way I'm putting the question.
I know the way you're putting it in a suggestive way to get it. To
No,
get it.
in reality, each guy
You're
paid
trying to
$9.
manipulate the outcome of the.
No, okay, well,
I'm not saying
let's just keep it.
I like the wordplay. I know how you're doing it.
No.
But basic math tells you what he's saying is wrong.
Let me hear it one more time.
Okay.
I can explain it to you and then let him tell you.
Okay,
All right.
I mean-
This is how it happens. They paid 30 for a room that they were supposed to pay 25 for. Clerk gives the bell dude $5, says give it back to him. He can't divide 5 by 3 ways, so he pockets 2 and gives him 3 back.
Yeah.
The way he added it up and
Was that each guy paid?
How much did each guy pay for the room at first?
$10.
that wasn't the initial
that was-
question. What happened to that $1? But now when you do the basic math in your head, the $1 never was missing. But I like how you did that. Do that again.
Okay, so each
I
guy,
like it.
each guy initially paid. It's a flawed math problem, which people that love math.
I don't think it's a flawed math problem. I think it's a misconception of wordplay and
No, because
dazzle.
every math equation can be forward and backward, except for this one. Every
Wait,
one of them.
Howard?
Okay, because each guy paid $10 initially. All right, ultimately paid 9. Okay, and that guy only stuck 2 in his pocket. Okay, so 3 times 9. 3 times 10 is 30. 3 times 9 is 27 plus the 2 in his pocket. There's $1 missing.
I get it. Okay, I see what you're saying there.
Okay, so each guy, it's a
It's
flawed.
the 33. It's the 33 cent from each $1 that makes up the last one.
Where are you getting 33? There was no change.
Where are you getting that? There's $1 missing when he stuck 2 in his pocket and gave the other guys back 3.
How much did each guy end up?
Watch his right hand when he does the 33.
Listen, they, at the end of the day, this is how much they paid. At the end of the day, they paid $28 for the room. So at the end of the day, they paid 9. Yes, they did. No, they didn't, because dude only pocketed 2. So they paid 28. And like I said, at the end of the day, they paid $9.33 each. That's the exact answer for your question. They paid $9.33 each.
No, they only paid 9. They
They
gave him a
didn't.
10 and got back $1.
There's
He
no
gave
way.
him 70 cents.
There's no way that they could have paid $9 each without
Well,
him
he's
pocketing
saying
an extra
there
$1.
was no change exchanged.
I know there wasn't, but there's no way that he could have paid them that much
This is-
and only
this-
pocket $2. So he had to pocket $3 then. There's still
What you're experiencing right now is called cognitive dissonance.
No, it's called reality. I think that might be real what you're saying. You might have some way with that, but that's not what I'm experiencing.
Okay.
I'm experiencing
No,
logic
you're
right now.
logically-
I'm experiencing
you're logically-
trivium right now. I'm
Right,
experiencing
right.
logic right now.
Okay.
But I see the way that you're trying. That story is probably not your story.
No,
so
not
I
at
can
all.
see how it's manipulating the answer they want or the dialogue they want you to follow. But anybody with any reason could look at it and be like,
Right.
There's still $1 missing because it doesn't happen like that. The story is telling you one thing, but if you do the math, it's a different thing. That's how I got that. So.
Okay. All right, but anyway,
I like it though. Any more things like that?
Well, that's interesting.
It's not at all. But anyway,
Highly debunkable.
not at all. But that's something I learned really young, and I was able to pleasure every math teacher I had through elementary school and high school with that. So I've been using that for years. It wasn't original, but it's. I was later told it's one of the few, if not one of the only, math problems that can't be worked backwards and forwards, and it doesn't
I
work.
mean,
out.
it's not a math problem.
Well,
Really,
it's like any word problem that you
it's a
would learn in
word
school.
problem, but not a math
Yeah,
problem.
it's a
Because,
word
like I said, you're wording it. They worded it for a certain outcome, but when you do it mathematically, it comes out the right way.
Right, even if you take 3 tens and subtract 1 from each one and then do the
So,
math. You have to-
a
you
math
can't
problem,
deal
it would be like 30. It would be like 30 subtract 5 plus 2, and it would
Right. If you
still
look
come
at
out
that
to
way-
29, and that $1 he would have to pocket more or whatever. But if you wrote it out in a math equation, it'll come out proper. If you do it in a wordplay situation, it's going to be manipulated.
But anyway, all right. So I've completely lost my train of thought with that.
That's cool. We can talk about whatever we want.
But anyway, the oh god, I completely lost where I was.
All right. Well, let me ask you about this.
Okay, good deal.
Because he's a globe denier. So, do you know when the first recorded time that or the first recorded evidence of the world being spherical? You know when that was?
Copernicus probably. Well, Aristophanes supposedly, but nobody knows that he really lived. Okay, the guy with the 2 sticks, Alexandria, and all that, measuring the shadows.
It was Greek.
Right,
It was Greek astrophysicists or whatever they are.
Aristophanes.
And what they did is they did a few basic experiments, ground level experiments, to get the exact circumference of the world to the exact T. That was 250 years before Christ.
Okay, but the only problem with that, okay, is
The same problem with the Bible. It's all bullshit.
No, not at all. Okay,
Written by secondhand accounts.
No. Okay. Now, the thing you got to realize with the heliocentric model, okay, and that's for anybody that doesn't know, that's putting the sun at the center. Even though we know the sun isn't in the story, the sun isn't the center of the entire universe. Okay, but by heliocentric, I mean the sun is the center of our solar system. Okay, that's what I mean by that. In the I lost my train of thought again.
You were getting to the
Oh, okay. I know what I was going to say. Okay. Initially, okay, they claimed that the sun was about 3 million miles away. Okay, and it's progressively gone up. Now it's somewhere around 93 million miles away. Okay, the same experiment, okay, could be conducted and give the same results with a sun that is much more close.
But
and
do you
local.
know, on certain times of certain times in the year, the sun does actually drop. It's not always at the same distance from Earth.
Right.
It's
Right. It's an elliptical orbit.
It's a thing. It's a thing. That's where a lot of that's where like Jesus and a lot of religions come from. Like Jesus called himself the sun, the light, like the sun. The sun
Right.
has
They've
12.
been worshiping the sun for a long time.
The sun has 12 constellations. Jesus had 12 followers.
Right.
Jesus died, resurrected after 3 days. The sun drops a certain amount of degrees for 3 days before it goes back up. That's what I've learned through research. So I know the sun's not always the same distance, but you're talking about a 30 million fucking mile. That's a big difference. I don't think it drops that far.
Initially, they thought Copernicus thought that it was around 3 million miles away. Okay, and right now we're somewhere around 93 million miles. Okay, if you picture in the way that they did it is supposedly okay. Now how he traveled these two distances and knew that it was exactly the same time and all this is beyond me a little bit. But if you the way they ascertained
Wait, the way he did what?
what he did basically was measured shadows.
Yeah,
okay?
I got you. I know exactly how he did it.
And
I can explain to you how he did it.
Right, but okay, so you know the experiment that he
As long as they're a farther, that's like we can do this right now. I
Right.
can go and call maybe my sister. I don't know where they're living now, whatever state, maybe Alabama. Maybe that might be too close. Or if I can call somebody in Alaska, y'all go out and measure shadows.
Right.
On a flat plane, those shadows are going to be the same. On a circular curvature plane, you're going to get different shadows.
Okay, what happens?
Same thing with the sunlight. If
Right.
we were on a flat, this is what I got from looking into it and just knowing about it over years. If we're on a flat planet, the sun would be shining down on the whole thing, almost like a spotlight.
Right. But what if the sun
Even
was
if it
much
goes
closer?
around and it's rotating around in this type of manner, everybody would still see it. Even the places that were in darkness because the sun's over here would still see the sun, but they would see it to a point of the atmosphere or whatever where it would end. Like I've really looked into this.
Okay. I would encourage you. There's a YouTube channel, right? Dwayne Kellum. Okay. He does high altitude balloon flights off his own back.
I've seen a few of them. I've seen some on GoPros that let the balloons go up until they pop like past the ionosphere and shit.
Right.
Like that.
It's most of his go up above 100,000 feet. Okay. Most of them are about.
But you know that's depending on the lens of the camera, it's probably not.
I'm not talking
probably
about-
not high enough to detect curvature.
I'm not talking about for curvature, okay? He's got some balloon footage where you can actually see, like on a spherical Earth, okay, with a sun 93 million miles away, with an Earth 24,901 miles in circumference, spinning at 1,000 miles.
But how would we know this? I kind of know what you're about to say, but how would we know this if these are based off of facts that if the Earth wasn't round, we couldn't prove? So we would have to know the Earth is round to
Okay,
get to
we'll get to that, right? But on an Earth, right, spinning at and I'll give you an interesting.
So you don't
side
believe
note.
we're spinning?
Not at all. We can't.
So
be
how do you explain the different star constellations at different equinox or whatever? They change like 3 times a year, the star constellations.
Okay, all right. I'm
Physically, y'all can go outside and check and observe the stars because that's all our ancestors did.
Right.
And they stargaze and they star watch
Right.
and they
And you know
observe
that-
patterns. They observe moon eclipses and moon phases.
Right, and it's good that you brought that up and not me. That all the eclipses that are determined today and the star patterns that are done today are done off of observations over hundreds or thousands of years. Okay.
All right. Well, as far as an eclipse go, you can go out and observe it yourself and watch it. And you can. Have you ever seen the moon when an eclipse and you see that like half circle moon? You see that? So you ever seen a circle moon where it's like a banana? You know why it's like a banana? Because that's Earth's shadow, a circle casting onto the moon. If it was a flat Earth, it'd be a straight shadow on the moon. You'd see, like a half moon. You wouldn't see that curve in it. Not true.
No. Okay, because you're assuming.
So why is
all
the
right.
shadow of the Earth curved?
Okay, all right. There's 2 parts of this. Okay. There's.
I got time for both.
Okay, good. There's a lot of quote flat earthers.
I might even have to light a joint up to this one.
Oh, that sounds like it. The Genesis 1:29 says it's okay. By the way, you made some biblical references, but anyway.
Yeah, I know it does. It says use every herb bearing seed on the earth as you like. God gives it to
Yeah,
you.
that's food for your head.
That's something I posted years and years ago. I'm not a biblical person.
Yeah, me either. I
It's
remember
more
that.
spiritual and like
Right.
energy than anything.
Right.
But yeah, for sure. I posted a picture on Instagram a few years ago with me rolling a blunt and I put that as a quote. So
Nice one,
I'm well informed of that one.
Nice one. And but there's I'm trying to keep this cohesive for your podcast, and I'm kind of all over the place here.
No, you're good. You're good. People love to hear about all kinds of other shit. So
Okay. I'll give you a couple interesting
you could have given your cup. I would do that for you.
interesting
You
little
know that.
side notes for you here.
Get little stands with ice cans by everybody.
In the heliocentric model, right? Do you know you mentioned before when we were talking about the wobble and stuff like that, right? So the heliocentric claim is that we're tilted on our axis.
Yeah, we're not
Right.
perfectly.
Well, but that's what they say, that we're tilted on our axis.
Yeah.
Do you know how much we're tilted on our axis?
3 degrees, not even some very small percentage.
It's actually 23.4 degrees.
I don't know why I want to say 27 for some reason.
No,
but,
it's,
all right, got you.
it's 23.4 degrees, right? And that's
So
what
we wobble on a tilt is what we do. We circulate on a tilt.
No, not at all.
Yeah, we
But-
do.
Okay. But
The axis tilt while we circulate.
the interesting
I
part
mean,
about
not in hit. That's what they tell us. Anyway.
Okay. The interesting part. Okay. The interesting part about the tilt is that 23.4 is how far off of 90?
How far off of 90?
Yeah. 66.6.
Yeah,
Okay.
66.
All right.
But that's the same thing as dividing
Okay.
23 by.
Do you know how fast the Earth travels around the sun?
Brandon can look at
66,600 miles an hour.
See if that's right, Brandon.
Okay. And just for coincidence.
Don't trust Wiki.
Right. Just for coincidence. It'll say about 67,000 because they don't like putting.
So you can't say 666. All right, so you can't say 666.
It'll say.
Just,
I
if
can
anything, you
reference
round up and you would say 70 before you'd say 666.
Well,
It says is about.
Right.
About,
And
so
that's
it's probably
how-
more closer to 70 or 68.
It's 66,600 miles an hour is what the claim is. But anyway,
From
if they
the
change
flat
that now.
From the flat Earth community,
No,
or
no. I
because-
studied. I told you my method of research.
No, I know, but
Like
so
there's
so some of your method of research is based on facts that they changed, I guess.
No, I look at the story. Okay, I look at
Got you.
the story that I'm being told. Okay, and if something seems
No, I get that.
You know,
But
if-
how do you manipulate the numbers from being what they are to 666? I like
Because
shit.
I told you it was
666.
gonna
No,
say-
that's interesting.
no,
because it's a
I
crazy
told you.
number, but
It's just about.
Right, and I knew it was going to say
about.
Right.
But that leaves a
If
lot
you-
of wiggle room for
if you-
above or under. You never know.
Like you always tell your
So what if
listeners,
somebody else had a whole
research it.
yeah? What if somebody else had a whole other thery that why the reason the number came above it instead of under it?
Okay, well, supposedly
But
according to
I
Einstein,
agree on this. I agree on this. That's way too close to that number to be, you know,
Okay, I'll give you another one.
coincidence, I guess.
I'll give you another one. Okay, there's actually a curve calculator, right, for what we should
I gotta
see.
research that fucking ancient numerology shit because I'm pretty sure there's some information in there on 666 and maybe these people that started that made us like 666 anonymous with Satan or evil or bad. The people that did that probably already knew the circumference or the rotation of the sun or whatever was 666 or whatever it was. So they probably did that on purpose. It's,
Okay,
it's like trickery.
You're aware back in like Copernicus's time.
the one that
back in-
the Copernicus that you don't believe, right? You talk about the same one. You can't start
No,
quoting
no,
them on factual stuff.
no,
You
no,
don't
I'm
believe
not.
some of the
No,
other stuff.
I want to point to something. Okay.
Okay.
Copernicus.
Reference.
Okay, references. Right. People back in his time, right. The only people that were truly educated, okay, were the religious and the wealthy.
Wealthy and religious.
Okay.
Because wealthy and religious went hand in hand, and a lot of kings were also priests that
Right.
felt like in religious.
Right. Okay. So if you look into Copernicus, he was actually a Jesuit priest. Okay. And if you completely verifiable. And another interesting.
The only reason I'm looking it up now is because you got me listening. That's
Okay,
why. So
well, that's good.
that's why
That's
I'm
good.
looking it up. I'm like, all right.
And coincidentally, okay, there's a curve calculator for a globe that's 24,901 miles at its widest. Okay, it's 8 inches per mile squared.
It's not. It's 15 like percent latitude or something. I forgot. Go ahead.
Okay, all right. But if you were like say 100 miles away for something, and you wanted to check how much curvature you would expect to see over this distance, okay, you take the mileage and square it, multiply it times 8, and divide it by 12.
Why 8?
Because it's 8 inches per mile.
But that's just based on that model. What if it was based on a different model?
Okay, I'm talking about the one that I've been force fed since childhood.
So the global model.
the
Okay,
globe,
all right, all right,
heliocentric, the narrative I've been fed. Okay,
gotcha.
that's all. There may be something else. Okay, but
So you got something else for your model, like a different one, or
the most honest response is I don't have any kind of a model. Okay, I can tell
respect that
what,
honesty.
what I can know. Okay,
like I can say that's bullshit, but I can't say I know something if it's not true.
Right, right. And there's a lot about that.
Understandable.
You were talking about stars and moon and stuff. I'm not afraid to say I don't know. Okay, I don't believe anybody knows. I believe there's a lot of things that we've been told, and people act like they know.
But at some point, you got to take the information, whatever information is provided, and kind of have to come up with some logical explanation or whatever in your own head, whatever your own ideas.
Right.
So,
And I have. I mean, this isn't.
That's what we're
I'm trying
talking
to. Yeah, I'm trying to open you up to this, okay? Because you're open to other things like I was, okay? And once this, it's only going to take a few things, okay? Because you're obviously both of you are inquisitive people, okay?
Well, thank you.
And
Thank you very much.
no, but once you're awoke to some things,
can you not do the 666 on my show though? Thank
yeah,
you.
it's not a.
Since you're throwing up some conferences, it's a repeating number with this guy now. He's like,
Okay.
I hate when they shoot the 3 and like,
Okay, yeah,
6, 6,
yeah,
6.
yeah.
Good fucking bro.
One last thing on that.
I don't believe in Satan. I believe in pure energy.
There you go.
So,
All right. So the one last thing on that, right? The curve calculator. Okay. The expected curve that you would see at 10 miles ends up being 66.6 feet. Okay.
What do you mean?
The way that they've even got the circumference of the Earth, it works out to 666. Okay. Like in anyway.
The circumference, like, no,
Okay,
I'm
so
trying to understand.
if you took 10 miles,
So from what I'm
times
getting,
10 miles.
from what I'm getting, it's calculated by time though, and there's 24 different time zones on Earth. We came up with this because the sun can only light one side of the Earth at a time, and that's proven fact, right? So while the other side is left dark,
I've got high
each
altitude
time-
balloon footage that completely debunked the Terminator line. So
I mean, it's not a Terminator line really. It's
that's what it is.
all right. So this is this. It is though. You can only see. We can't when the moon's out. We can't see the sun. And if Earth and if light bends space like that, we should be able to see a little bit more, I guess, of the sun or whatever. But when it's dark, it's dark. And when it's light, it's light. So what I'm saying, the reason why that it's light when it's light is because this is how they created the time zone based on the rotation of the sun. You understand that? So that's how they created the time zone. So each time zone is 15 degrees of latitude. The biggest degree being around the equator, and the smallest, the narrowest, being around the poles. And you can only come up with that on a circular planet. So, and the Earth was not round, and if it didn't rotate on the axis, the sun would be like more like a spotlight. It would illuminate.
right, a local area.
It would
Exactly.
illuminate everything depending on
So
how
what's
big it
the
was.
what's like the understanding of like if it's dark here now in say United States, but it's light over in Japan right now, like they're waking up or something. You know, it's the morning time. How do they explain that? Like if it's a flat plane,
Right.
But it's not. When they say flat, it's flat, but it's still
It's
round.
No. See, that's part of what I was talking about.
The mainstream idea of it, or
the
Let me ask you
what
this.
is the controlled
What do
opposition,
you
the government
think if
counter
you
to
could
the awakening?
if you could map the Earth? What do you think it looked like?
What I can tell so far, okay, is that and I'll tell
We're
you
getting
really
into the shit right now,
I'll
guys.
tell you what really solved it for me, okay? Because obviously
No, I want you to answer this question first.
Okay.
What? All right. So the Earth's flat for you, right?
Yeah, it's a level
It's
stationary
a level
plane.
stationary plane.
Right, for sure, 100%, undebunkable.
I like this.
No, it is. I mean, 100%. And you'll see it one day, and you'll be like, "Holy shit, this was the guy." And I've got a warning for you.
Right,
Okay,
right.
your life is never going to be the same.
All right.
after
So
this. All right.
could you tell me why? If the Earth. All right. First of all, answer me one question before I can ask my next question.
All right.
What would your map look like of the Earth if it's not that circular thing that the flat earthers represent with the moon and the sun rotating around like that or going around and around?
Right.
What would it look like to you? Is it any kind of circle at all or no? Even if it's a flat circle, is it circle or no?
I don't. I really don't.
You don't have an opinion on it?
No, I do have an
Because I
opinion.
want to get to
I
my
don't
next question before I get. I smoke a lot of pot and I'm gonna forget. So
Okay.
I'm trying to get to the next question.
Okay. I think the circle, okay, is total and complete bullshit.
Okay.
The people that are
So
purporting
do you think we
to
live in a simulation or
no,
what?
no, definitely not a simulation.
What are we then? The most strangest thing that ever existed?
No.
Like
All
we
right,
have to be.
Can
If this is what's going on right
Can
now.
we go back? I want to go back to.
But so you don't have a no, you're good. You don't have a reference on what you think the Earth.
No,
would
I
be-
do.
would
I'm
look
trying
like.
to explain it, but like I
I
want.
mean, in singular, quick. It's not round. You don't think it'd be round?
I really don't know.
Not like circle, but just round. You don't know. So you don't know. All right. So you don't know.
Okay, the round. Okay, here's my problem. Okay, since early in our childhood, okay, we were fed a couple narratives that you're not aware of. Okay, but from my conversations with people, I know that it was an indoctrination because even people in other countries, bar none, everyone has these same things. Okay, when you're making it round, okay, what you're doing, knowingly or unknowingly, is you're putting an edge on it. Okay, and that's something that we were heavily indoctrinated with.
So you believe the Earth has no edge, like it's boundless?
I don't. I have no idea.
But
But
you know
I
there's
the
people
edge-
that flown around it, like
Okay.
Amelia Earhart. Like there's.
Okay.
That wasn't a good example.
No,
it wasn't.
No, it is. It is a good example.
No.
Okay? Because you're talking about circumnavigating.
So you don't believe in GPS systems either, then?
Where do we
simplify it,
They
no.
are ground-based positioning systems. LoRaN predated and
So how do you
accomplishes everything.
how do you explain the Google imaging?
I
maps
understand what
from
you're going through
satellites?
right now, but you should let me.
Okay, the
go through this a
LoRaN
little
was
bit.
another
I
edit
understand,
that I
understand.
didn't
I did the
catch.
same thing.
I want direct answers, buddy.
I know. I did the same thing. Okay, I did the same thing. All right, because it's a lot to take in. All right, the whole notion of there being an edge, right? Everybody was taught in school. All right, stupid people long ago, okay, thought the Earth was flat, and that if they sailed this way, okay, that they would actually fall off the edge. All right, this is taught in France. This is taught in Australia. This is taught very specifically at a certain age. Okay, between the ages of 5 and 8. Okay, one of the first things that you see when you go into
The thing
kindergarten is a globe.
You're right, and I don't want to know why it's indoctrinated into us because it's probably the same reason why everything else is. If that's the point.
Right.
But I want to know is if it has no edges, what do you think it looks like?
I think it's.
You have to come
There's a
up with
great
some
possibility.
conclusion. It's not endless. It doesn't just go on forever. That would have been proven.
You would believe that. You believe that without a question. Okay, about your universe. Okay, you believe. Where's the edge of the universe? Where's the edge?
Do you believe in the ice wall? Is that something you believe in?
We're gonna get into that. We're gonna get into
I
that.
believe there's part of it.
He don't believe there's an edge.
Okay.
That's why we're
Okay.
talking about now.
I
You know, he thinks the Earth has no edge.
I've seen some of the flat Earth maps, right?
Right.
There's
And
different
they've got
some of them do, some of them don't.
But he
Some of
don't
them
believe
have that,
in
like,
those.
we're in a little small part of the center or wherever,
Right.
and that there's other bigger things.
Right. There could be other rings. There's ancient Buddhist maps and stuff showing other continents.
Right, yeah.
Admiral Byrd.
I know about Admiral
Okay,
Byrd.
he claimed that there was more land
Intercore
aside.
people,
You know, there
people
was.
inside the world and over Antarctica.
I don't know about inside the world. That sounds like David Icke.
No, that's Admiral Byrd. That's Admiral Byrd.
All right. I thought you were going
Look up
lizard
Admiral
people
Byrd. Look up Admiral Byrd, and you can read the story.
Right.
He was flying over Antarctica,
Right.
and he claimed that
He found an area.
he lost control over his plane and over the functions, over the navigation, over everything, and he said that he was being
That's Operation Hydra,
that
by
he
the
was
way.
being manipulated into a certain place without his control. So he was basically like, you ever seen the little cartoons or TV shows of an alien just like lifting somebody
Right,
up?
right.
Basically, that was what he would claim was going on. He was being directed into a certain place without his control. Once he got there, it was in the middle of Antarctica, a big green land, and once he got there, a civilization of very advanced people, could have been Atlantis, could have been Eden, whatever, took him 100 stories underground and told him about like everything that's been going on, the floods, how they survived, all this, all that, and basically sent him on his way. Once he got back to his plane, like he noticed that he was only gone for like 60 seconds, and it was like documented in like fucking flight pilot manifest or whatever. Like, so that's the mainstream theory that I read about him.
Right,
So.
right. As far as the ice wall, right? There's obviously some ice around Antarctica, but I've got a lot of the bigger channels on YouTube, or the people that are kind of the celebrities of flat Earth. They're holding conventions now.
B.O.B. Kyrie Irving, you heard that? They
Yeah, well,
referenced it.
B.O.B. kind of danced around on it. I'm talking more like Mark Sargent, Patricia Steer,
Right, so
Matt Power.
just a quick answer from you real quick.
Okay.
You don't believe in the ice wall? Yes or no? Yes or no answer, no. And you don't believe in Earth having an edge?
I don't see what that would look like. I
You know
can't
what
tell.
firmament means in ancient language and shit like that? It doesn't mean
The
dome.
firmament?
Firmament, sorry. You know,
Right.
it doesn't
I don't
mean
buy the
dome.
dome thing.
It doesn't mean
Okay.
dome or nothing
That
like
was
that.
my next question.
It doesn't mean dome or
Okay.
nothing like that. So
Right.
I've looked into it. I've read it extensively.
Right. If you look at the first 5 minutes of Back to the Future, right, which came out in 1985. Okay.
I like that movie, so I'm gonna humor him.
Okay. So Steven Spielberg, right? First 5 minutes of the movie.
That's the dude.
Okay. If you recall the scene, if you've ever seen the movie,
He's dropping hints on us, ain't he?
He's panning around in the room, right? All the clocks are ticking in the very beginning of the movie, right? Tick, 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 tick. And he goes around and he pans back around, and then they've got the dog food dispenser, right? Dog's name happened to be Einstein. Okay. The dog food plunking
It
down.
happened to be. They did that on purpose.
Right.
Yeah.
The dog food plunking down into the Einstein bowl looked like a pile of shit. Okay.
Because
And,
that's what he was?
he's probably full of it.
I still
okay?
kind of fuck with him a little bit.
All
I
right,
get
is
you.
he? All
I
right.
might have to remove that picture on the wall.
No, but anyway,
Replace it with Tesla.
Yeah, I
I like Einstein's hair, but anyway, no.
Y'all look like y'all casting shadows.
I know that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. But when the camera pans around, okay, and it's right above the Einstein bowl, something that most people wouldn't even pick up on is up on the wall. There's an AE map, which is the map that you're talking about with the azimuthal.
Circle map?
Yeah, the azimuthal equal distant map.
Do you know that's still used?
Yeah, like
by a
the
lot-
Right, it's the UN symbol.
It's used by a lot of nations on their flags.
Right. It's the UN symbol.
So that's where flat earthers like get some of their like, oh, man, it's just a flag.
It's a
just
confirmation.
like that's just a movie.
Right.
But I will give you this.
Wait, hold on one second. Hold on one second.
Yeah, let me-
I went
Make your
back. I went back.
Because you editorialize a lot before you get to the point.
I'm sorry, but I just want. I went back and looked for that clock.
I forget questions while he's editorializing. That's why I'm like, yo, I'm forgetting what I was
I'm
about
sorry.
to ask. I had good questions.
You interrupted it.
I mean, he's editorializing like for 30 minutes before he makes a 30-second fact.
He's painting a picture for us. Man.
I mean, a picture he wants you to believe. Not
No,
saying nothing about you.
I'm just saying that there's good reason.
You're by far our best guest so far.
Well, thank
no,
you.
Yeah,
no,
it's great, man.
nothing bad about Ugly Squad or Fernando de Brasi with the book, but it's way more interesting than our previous guest. So I'm having fun with it.
Okay, I was real new to the level stationary plane thing, right? And I ran across this video that showed the AE map on a wall clock, okay, in the first 5 minutes of Back to the Future. Immediately after, it pauses for an extra long time on this clock, okay? And
What do you mean by pauses for extra long time?
You got to go back and watch the beginning.
It's like we're going through quick, and then this one just stays there for a
It's hung
second.
out there when you-
All right,
when
I got
you
It
see
sticks
it.
out. It sticks out.
It sticks
For
out.
people that are woke, though. For
people
people
that
that
are
know
woke.
the symbolism and shit like that and know what's going on.
You would have never caught it when you saw it.
Like you see triangles in the back of every movie. You're like, oh, you see suns with the eye and all kinds of shit. And you notice it kind of like that.
Right, and right after that, Michael J. Fox comes into the door, right? He lifts up the mat and he hides the key, okay? So if you were to play that backwards, the hidden key is Einstein, and you know what I mean?
But who would figure out to play it backwards to come up with an
years
idea?
later, these people, okay, if you look into 9/11, you can go find 9/11 stuff in The Simpsons, okay?
Yeah.
These people that do
But
things,
you know why? Because they tried to bomb the towers in '94.
not with airplanes, it was 90, I believe it was 93, and they
All right,
used a truck
Simpsons
bomb.
are fucking liars.
Right.
And what they do is they manipulate certain situations and they won't put it out as an episode, but they'll put it out on social media as something that happened 30 years ago. Because they did the same shit with Trump.
All right,
With his
cool.
whole Trump being
Yeah,
elected and
with
the
the
sign
bomb.
dropping.
Okay.
That wasn't never on an episode. It was something that,
The one that he's talking about though with the 9/11 thing was an episode.
look it up, let's find it.
I don't know for sure, and I'm not going to stake any kind of credibility on Simpsons. But
Neither am I, because I know
I've heard of
I've
it,
seen him do
though.
it before. Yeah,
I'm
you've
just
heard of
saying,
it, but you haven't heard of it before 9/11. That's for sure.
I mean, I watched Simpsons, but
All right, so on your defense,
Okay.
listen, on your defense, the movie Matrix came out when 99, 98, 97, whatever. They flashed Neo's license in part of that movie, and his expiration date on the license is 9/11.
I didn't know that.
There's a lot of other references. I think in the MK Ultra Mind Control movie, what was it? Conspiracy Theory with Mel Gibson. There's another 9/11 reference in the beginning of that movie. Just the credits coming in, and you see a car, and the reflection of the window off the car. There's buildings in the back, and there's writing, and it's like there's references to a lot of shit.
Right.
And it's like, but who really puts those references together?
Right. Okay. So the point of all that is I went back and I looked, and I spent probably a few weeks anyway, trying to find a wall clock that was manufactured with the AE map on it. Okay, every wall clock that I looked at from 85 and earlier, and tried to find something with a picture of the globe on it, they all showed what we see as this right over here. Okay, and when you saw a picture, there was no that I could find commercially produced AE wall map clocks at that time. Okay, so that tells me that was placed there. All right, and with the whole ice wall,
Wait, what was placed there?
The clock with the AE map.
Okay, the AE map, the dome ice wall nonsense. Okay, was meant to go out there. Okay, on the that model that you were talking about with the dome and the ice wall. Okay, the sunrises don't work right on it. Okay, so it's a straw man. It was set up to be able to
be able to debunk all these flat Earth models, but when it comes down to what your model, you don't have one. You don't know how it works. You can say, oh, it don't work, but you don't know how it works.
Okay, and
but at the end of the day,
I would say I'm about to debunk the globe, so I think we're in equals status.
I mean, there's a lot of things proven with around Earth. There's a lot of experiments. All right, check this out. Go outside in an open plane, lay down, right? Watch the sunset. As soon as the sunset stand up, you can still see a little bit of that sunset. You'll get a second sight of it. That only happens on a curved Earth. It will not happen on a flat Earth. It just won't. So, I mean, I'm guessing your argument is you're not saying the Earth is flat, but you're not saying it's not round. You're kind of in the middle?
No, it's definitely a level stationary plane.
So how do you explain that?
Okay, I'll give you the, and I'm going to use their number because I truly don't know.
It's just like a boat coming over the horizon.
Okay,
it's
that's
not
easily,
coming into sight. It's coming over.
No, that's actually.
It's not. You want to know why? Because somebody, and this is a very smart idea, what you got to do is go to the tallest building in your city and take a telescope with you. Stand on the roof and look straight. If we're on a straight plane on a flat Earth, you would see the Empire State Building down there. Behind that, you'd see Mount Everest. You'd see everything else. That's a straight plane. If the Earth is curved, you won't see none of that, and you don't see none of that.
Not to counter such a wonderful host here on his.
No, I want you to. I'm not. I never said I'm sad. So
here's a fact check thing. Okay, Statue of Liberty. Okay, is 326 feet tall. Okay, it can be viewed on a clear day
from here. From here, we'll be able to see it.
It can be viewed on a clear day
in a telescope
from 60 miles away.
You know how a telescope works, right?
Hold on.
It brings everything that's further away into sight. That's all it does.
Right. You can also bring, sometimes, not always, okay, you can bring a ship that appears to have gone over horizon.
Back into view. But not the whole ship. You only see half of it because half of it that curvature.
No, you can actually bring all in all. Okay. What we're neglecting when we look at these visuals, okay, is the part that the human eye plays in what
that was another edit I explained that you could see all the way down to the hull.
You go on any street where you see a line.
Not always, just sometimes.
In the distance.
That's a more narrow dense view, though. That's not like,
hold on,
that's not like, I know what he's getting to. That's not like
no, I'm trying to give you an idea of how our eyes actually
But that's not the same situation, you know? You got to give it the same situation as the ship being in the open plane.
Okay, what's happening is the floor is rising, okay? The ceiling is dropping because we have spheres in our eyes. Okay, we have a...
So we got fish lens eyes.
We actually, what they've done cleverly, okay, is take our eyes. We would have to have flat eyes, okay, to see what we see on a sphere, okay? What they've done is taken a level...
How do you prove that, though?
If you look down...
What do you mean by flat eyes? Like
we see spherical.
Down?
We see in a sphere, okay? And
we see in like 180 degrees. We don't see in 360 degrees as a sphere, and we don't see in 360 degrees. So that's
imagine.
Shout out to Gav. Thank you.
Around your head,
okay, you don't see
at eye level, okay? And imagine a sphere around you, okay, with the ground rising up to your eye level, okay, and the top dropping down, okay, but you're in like a bubble, okay, and that's your visual horizon, okay. And to bring that back to what you were talking about, you understand a ball in these pictures or whatever, a ball curves equally in all directions, okay. The horizon phenomenon that you're talking about.
Watch my hands. This is where I explain the left to right phenomenon.
Between 3 and 5 miles out. Right, there's a huge problem with this, and a lot of people.
But you get a different answer when you're looking under a telescope, like I was saying, or binoculars. It's not the same.
Here's what you're not thinking about, though.
That's like a trickery of the eyesight or the mind.
No,
it's not the same. You're observing through a telescope, though.
When you're looking, I'm not trying to convince you in anything. Okay,
I want to be convinced that your answers are truthful.
No, I want to try to help you see something. Okay, I'm not trying to manipulate you.
No.
Okay, all right, I'm really not.
You might not be knowing that you are.
No, I'm really not. All right, a ball curves equally in all directions. Okay, it's the nature of a sphere. Okay, in the heliocentric model, according to them.
Objection: the Earth is not a perfect sphere.
I know it's an oblate spheroid. Only all their pictures.
Right.
That's Neil deGrasse's latest propaganda. Only the problem with that is every picture they've ever shown us is a perfect sphere. So let's see.
I mean, we know NASA manipulates their pictures. They told us that 20 years ago because it's so hard to get a full picture. You got to be so far away from Earth to get how big it is to get a full picture of it. So a lot of there
has, according to Senator Bill Nelson, testifying before Congress, the last actual picture of the Earth was from Apollo 17 from the moon surface.
When did he testify that? 5 years after Apollo 17?
No, look at my. It's 42 years ago. You can check out my website.
Apollo 17 was?
Yeah. Well, no, when he was testifying before Congress, it was 42 years.
Yeah, that's just a few years after.
What was his name?
I'm pretty sure that information is different now, though.
No. But anyway.
So you don't believe in gravity? I mean, gravity only comes into the gravity as we know it. It only comes into the equation if the Earth was spherical and rotation and spinning.
There was a big chunk taken out
That's
there.
the gravity that we know of that holds everything down.
Okay.
The way gravity acts, it pulls everything to the center of its mass. That's the gravity I'm talking about.
Okay,
that governs everything. Our solar system.
Okay, that was the that's kind of the Newtonian. It's not so much Einsteinian.
So yes or no, you believe in gravity?
No, I believe that. Okay, I believe in gravity insofar as that they have measured 9 meters per second. Okay, they have accurately measured.
So you believe you'll be the same weight on the moon then? If not, you believe in gravity. If you believe you can go to the moon and say the moon existed, theoretically speaking, if you can go to the moon, and if you think you'd be the same weight on the moon, then you really don't believe in gravity.
Okay, there's what they've done is accurately the only thing that they've done as far as gravity, what they've proven. Okay,
I want to finish with the gravity before we get on.
Okay, that's good.
I want a little straight answer here.
Okay,
you think you'd be the same weight on the moon then? Is what I'm asking you.
I don't think we can go to the moon.
But if we were there right now, you think you'd be the same weight on the moon?
There's a more practical example.
Yes or no?
Well, listen, he's trying.
Okay, there's more practical.
I want an answer. I'm trying to get an answer here. There is. There's got to be. If you can't put something forward and be like, this is what I believe, but I don't have a definite yes or no answer.
No. I'm trying to explain it. It's more down to earth.
So you don't believe in gravity? You did.
I'm trying to explain it. If gravity were, as they say, if it was a pulling force, okay, the centripetal force at the equator is different than the North Pole.
No, that would happen on a flat plane.
No.
Yes, it would.
There's no.
It's not true. On a round planet, gravity it pulls to the center of its mass. On a flat plane,
I'm not explaining myself well. The rate at which you turn, okay, not the centripetal force, okay. The rate at the equator is supposed to be turning about 1,000 miles an hour, okay. At the North Pole, if you were standing directly on the North Pole, okay, you would turn once in 24 hours.
that can only happen on a round planet.
No,
And you know
but
what
what I'm
else?
saying is-
If you're standing on the North Pole and you walk,
I get what you're
so do I.
The
But
gravity
it only happen on a round planet.
Okay, but the gravity, okay, your weight would actually, if gravity were a real thing, on the model that they give us, your weight would be different
How?
at the equator
How?
because of the centripetal force throwing you, the force that is working against gravity,
There's no force working against gravity.
the spin.
The spin creates the gravity that's holding you down.
Okay.
If there was no
You just
spin,
went-
there's no spin,
you
there's
just
no
told me
gravity,
the
and everything
mass-
comes apart. The mass is where the gravity gravitates to, where it pulls to. Is the mass, and
That's
the
why
mass
I'm-
only came together because everything's spinning. If we wasn't spinning, we would never form.
Okay, all right.
So based on their idea of what happened, that's how we got here.
Right.
So on a flat plane, it's already proven. I guess anybody that wants to believe it or don't want to believe it, but scientists prove that gravity pulls towards its mass.
Right.
On a flat Earth plane, the mainstream idea of flat Earth plane is that, like, little cone shaped thing, whatever it is, the little circular cone shaped thing, like he was explaining earlier, with the sun and the moon going around one way.
No.
Right. So the gravity would pull to the center, yes, because that's where the mass is. So on a flat Earth plane, the further you get to the outside or the ice walls, the harder the gravity would be. So it would be like climbing up a fucking
I know, I've
mountain.
seen that video, and it's
What video?
completely, there's a video on YouTube that's showing exactly what you're laying out with the gravity being in the center, okay? These are
You know,
strong
there's
men.
also physicists that are sitting there explaining this.
Okay.
No,
stuff.
I think what you're going on about this gravity shit way too much.
I don't think I am, because I don't go on with whatever I want. But I want to get an actual answer out of
I know,
something.
I'm
I haven't got one yet.
Well, listen, I think
trying.
you're trying to get an answer out of gravity that he may not.
So
fully
say
believe in
it. So say
gravity.
it. That's what I'm asking. I want to get a yes or no every once in a while. I don't want to editorialize for 30 minutes about something and forget about what we were talking about.
Okay, I apologize.
No, you're good. You don't
All
have to
right.
apologize. I
No,
think
because
it's
I'm
good. I think it's
trying
all good for
to. No,
you,
I'm trying.
but
I'm trying.
I like
to-
answers.
No, I'm trying to get to that. Okay, I believe. Okay, I believe that they have determined the rate at which something falls. Okay, that is no indication that there is a fucking force pulling it. Okay, and I do not believe. Okay, that there is a pinpoint, like a singularity with everything being pulled towards it.
Okay.
Okay, I don't buy that.
So everything
okay?
could be bullshit, right? Everything could be. Let's say they're lying about everything. Let's
No,
say
no.
they lie about a lot of shit.
How about it's as simple as up is up and down is down?
I get what you're
But there's nothing to map that out. There's nothing to prove it. At least they got theories and a
Everything
whole
in
bunch
your
of other
direct
shit.
reality proves it.
So-
Everything.
So why is
when you let go of a helium
why in
balloon-
America there's only 7%? Like, you think that many people are
There's
stupid? Like, you think
another
none of these
big
elites
chunk
that,
taken out there.
that study this trivium or whatever. None of them believe in flat Earth.
Okay, let me
Well, I mean, how do you know?
Okay, it really.
They're not
we
teaching
haven't
it in
we
schools.
haven't gotten to the whys or the whatever. If you check out the heliocentric model,
Right.
okay, if you check out, I'll tell you this real quick. If the
Why are
heliocentric-
all other visible planets round then? And we're the only flat one. Or you're not calling it flat because
Okay.
you don't know what it is. So
No,
are
I
we
am
the
calling
only-
it. No,
whatever?
and I don't want this to get like this is when I was telling you this is the typical. This is what I encounter. Okay, okay.
It's-
All right, no, and it's normal. Okay,
Yeah.
and
It sells.
no, it's
on the show, so.
no, but it's really hard to wrap your head around. Okay, it's really
I mean, it is when you have no real direct answers.
No,
Because
I
at the end of
really-
the day, your answer is like, oh, I'm not saying I don't believe in theirs, but I'm not saying I have an idea what it is. But I
No,
know
okay.
that's
I
true.
think it's misleading.
I think I was looking for an answer, but no, it's all good.
No. As far as the plane, I know for sure if I look at everything else on Earth, okay, be it a pond, a lake, anywhere, okay, what we're missing is a shoreline. Okay, if it had been an ice wall dome, all right, the globe deception would have never been needed. All right, we would have already been encased. Okay, what the globe essentially did, and you may not see it yet, okay, is it put a circle around us. All right, it pinned us in.
Gotta be a simulation.
Okay, I think it was done to contain us so we can be enslaved.
I was just gonna say I don't even think you're like so much as a flat earther is that you're thinking like even further out of the box. Like,
Yeah.
that's what I'm trying to hear you out for.
Right.
Is that I don't think you're a flat earther. I think that you think this is something way bigger. Way
Like you said,
way
a globe.
different.
What do you say?
A globe denier. I mean, for sure.
I think that's better than flat earther.
Well,
Yeah,
a globe is actually physically impossible. Okay, and
But I don't really see there no proof to prove that.
Okay,
There's a lot.
let's break this down.
You can do a lot of experiments outside on your own to prove that we're rotating and we're.
You see this right here?
Why do you turn it and the level stays the same?
No,
It's gravity, but
no. You see that?
Yeah.
Okay. Fluid dynamics. Okay. Fluids always seek their level. All right. If they're at a
Gravity.
Okay.
But you don't believe in gravity. You think gravity's real? Why do your bubbles go up underwater? Pressure of the gravity
It's
condenses
called
in the
density.
water because of the pressure.
Everything was explained. Okay. Before gravity, everything was explained with density and buoyancy. Okay. If an item is more dense than the surrounding medium,
So you don't believe
the
in new
whole-
ideas, or you just?
No, I do. Okay, but I also
I think our ancestors were really fucking intelligent too, though, and I still believe a lot of shit that they say. But some ideas, not everything's bullshit, bro.
gravity is God in the gap.
Some things can't be hidden. You know how big of a cover up every nation would have to be involved. I'm talking about maybe 2 billion people probably. There's 7, 8 on Earth. That's a lot to keep a secret. It would have to be. Every nation.
It wouldn't be near that. Look,
First of
my
all,
teachers that
somebody, like
educated
you were
me.
saying, somebody would have probably got a GoPro and drove off the edge of the wall on their bicycle or some shit just to prove the Earth is flat or whatever. Like there's a lot of proof and a lot of pictures and a lot of stuff saying there is, but when it comes to it's not. There's just this is what I think and this is
No,
what I
okay,
say.
I'll give you a really good example. Okay, all right. If we take that, if we're having an honest conversation, all right,
Yeah.
and we're talking to each other,
Which I like to think we are.
Okay, and we are,
Okay,
all right,
cool.
and we're not attempting to bullshit each other,
Yeah, for
okay,
sure.
and we're not,
Straightforward.
right,
Yeah.
and we're just being real. And I would ask you, okay, without any appeals to anybody, okay, what is your number one proof that you live on a globe? Or what's your
Like,
best proof? What's your best proof?
I mean, I would say I would have like 3 things that could probably prove it. One would be why would every other planet be round and we'd be the only non-round planet? That's a lot to prove. My second one would be like I was saying, you can go up to if you're in New York or wherever, go up to the Empire State Building, whatever, stand on the top and look through a telescope. On a flat Earth, you should be able to see everything lined up. Mount Everest, everything that they claim there, you'd be able to see on a flat Earth. It wouldn't curve around. And then my third one would be the shadowing because you can dig holes and measure shadows. It don't have to be just a stick sticking up the ground. You can dig holes because all these theories were proven like thousands of years ago, and you can measure shadows in multiple ways. And you can call a friend up in Alaska or Australia and like let's measure shadows.
Okay, if we're
Maybe
we
it's
were
not
to-
definite proof
no,
that's
but
round,
if
but
we-
it's definitely not. It's
okay.
proven that it's not flat also.
Okay, let's take the last one first. Okay, if we walk outside to a street light light and you stand on one side of the street light and I stand on the other side
Right,
of the street light.
but the equation only works if there's enough a distance. You're gonna get. Of course, if we're both standing right under the sun, it's gonna
No, but if we
there's
move-
enough distance between because it's got to be enough distance measured by how big the Earth is.
The critical factor in that equation that you're working out,
What is
okay,
it?
is the distance to the sun. Okay, and
But
those.
on a flat Earth, it would be the same distance.
Okay. Anyway, if the sun were 93 million miles away, okay, you wouldn't have corpuscular rays coming through the clouds. Okay, I mean, if you guys look it up later, look up because it could happen. The sunlight would be coming in parallel. 93 million miles away, it'd be striking the Earth as parallel beams, not divergent.
Who said that?
Because that's the way it is. That's in the heliocentric model. That's what they claim. That's why Eratosthenes' experiment requires that the sun rays be coming in parallel. Okay, that experiment that you're talking about with the
They be coming in parallel. Yeah,
they have to for that
on a flat
experiment.
Earth, on a flat
No.
Earth.
On the rays.
How, but if it's curvature, how would it become non-fair, like parallel or whatever?
Okay, the Eratosthenes experiment, okay, on a spherical Earth requires the sunlight to be coming in from 93 million miles or whatever.
But I thought
away.
back then they thought it was only 60 million
From a
miles
great
away.
distance to where the sunlight is coming in parallel.
Gotcha.
Okay, and then the sphericalness or the spherosity of the Earth is what casts the shadows in different directions. Okay, that's the hypothesis that they put forward. That's what we've been going on this entire time. If you move the sun closer and make it more local, okay, you can achieve the same thing on a level plane without it being a spherical Earth.
But the shadows are not the same. They're more
You
fatter.
would get the same result as far as the angle, and that's what was measured. Okay, is the
I
on
think
the
it was
same
like
day.
an all-around shadow, like not just the angle. I think it was like the shape too. That was like the circumference. Like how
I
big
could be wrong. I'll give you that. But
I mean, I was
that's how
reading
they
on it
determined.
earlier.
Yeah, that's how they
Like,
determined that's how they determined it. Was
But
the
that's why
angle
they
of the
redid
shadow.
it. That's why they redid it from the poles with the holes in the ground, like a reverse idea of the whole thing. And
Right.
But I mean, it's
Okay, but anyway, so
it makes for good conversation.
Okay,
I like talking about it.
so
I don't mind hearing about
the
it.
shadows and what was your
Well, why would all other visible planets be
Okay,
round and
okay.
would be non-round?
Okay, that's kind of like if you look at okay, two things on that. One thing until recent history, okay, planets were called wandering stars because they had their own particular order.
What recent history? Because
Since Copernicus-
Sumerians 6,000 years ago knew the planets weren't. They knew.
Okay.
They depicted our solar system in their
Right.
tablets.
They
were
did,
not
but they
wandering.
called them wandering stars. Okay, they were not called planets.
Because we rotate and they didn't see them all the
You
time.
see, the only thing they did was
Because it
put
rotated.
planets at a T, right?
But that's
You got
because it
that right.
rotated and we didn't see those stars all the time. So that's why they call them wandering. They changed 3 times out of the
Right,
year.
they retrograde and they do all kinds of weird shit. Okay, but they were called wandering stars. They weren't called. And I would.
But there's a scientific reason, like in actuality, why they call them that. Because they didn't know about the equinoxes and the rotation of
Right.
the Earth.
And I would suggest that you check out like P900 or P1000 footage of these planets.
Okay.
Okay. I would highly suggest that they're
What
not
does
that they're electrical energy, not terra firma, like we've been told. I mean, if you seriously check it out, it's amazing what you'll end up seeing.
So then you're admitting some of this real knowledge is being leaked then. Like, because that would have to be a big cover up. Like, that's real big cover up.
Okay,
there.
but look,
I like cover ups and shit.
No, but okay, but anyway.
What are your arguments for flat Earth? What are your main?
And the other part is it's a logical fallacy. It's like saying the pool table's got to be round because all the balls on it are round. It's a logical
But
fallacy.
what about the whole?
I didn't
What
want to
about
just come at you that way.
What about
you know?
standing on the like Empire roof and looking straight with a telescope? You'd be able to see everything lined up that they say, right?
Okay, here's a good one for that, and that's why I was going to bring that up earlier, right? The Statue of Liberty, you can Google or Wiki or whatever, but Statue of Liberty is 320 something feet tall. On a clear day, it can be viewed from 60 miles away. Okay, so on spherical Earth, 24,901 miles, right? You take 60 miles, multiply it by 60 miles times 8 inches per mile
So we're
squared,
not a
divided by
perfectly
12.
sphere Earth, and the plane goes up and down on Earth
Okay,
too. So
this
it's
is a viewing distance from over water.
But based on a perfect circumference, though.
This is getting to the point, though. Okay, is it's viewed over water. Okay, right? Water always finds its level.
It curves.
Okay, water has never curved. You
It
cannot
curves
show
with
me.
the Earth.
Okay, the only.
If you're flying above 30,000 feet, you could see the slight curvature just in a plane.
Okay, I've got balloon footage.
But I mean, if you personally,
The reason you see the sphere out of the window is because
The curvature?
the windows are actually curved on the fuselage.
So
They
we
are.
got fisheye eyes, lens. We got
Look at
curved
it. Next time
windows.
you fly, look at it.
That's the only way. But why? So I got circle windows in my bathrooms that I had, and nothing ever curved outside those windows. So
How thick are your bathroom windows? Come on, man. All right. Anyway,
now they're designed to make everything look like a
no,
curvature.
they're not designed for that. They were designed for the plane.
They're part of the cover up.
No, not at all.
I think what you're saying is like the
You can't walk me down the nutty road. My shit's solid. You can't walk me
I
down.
know
the
what
nutty.
he's trying to say, but I don't see no.
Okay,
I can't.
I'm just saying-
wrap my mind around that being part of it. Like, yeah, no,
Listen, I don't think
make you see
he's
curves.
going to be able to convince you or anything like that.
I'm not trying to really. I mean,
We're just here to like why his
okay,
reasons are.
Okay, now here's the thing that did it for me. Okay, there was two things really that did it for me that just made 100% sense to me. Okay, with the Earth spinning at 1,000 miles an hour at the equator, roughly it's give or take somewhere between
Why
six.
don't everybody fly off?
Well, that's the magic of gravity. Okay, and by the way, gravity for this globe cult religion. Okay, gravity is the god. Okay,
Not in a cult.
I hate it. Let me
You know,
ask you a
cult,
question.
you know
Let me ask you
what cult
a
means,
question.
though? Cult only means secret. Hiding.
Okay,
Hidden. It doesn't. It's not really.
I'm not saying occult. Okay, I'm saying cult in the Jim Jones drink a Kool-Aid sense. Okay, that's what I mean when I'm saying cult. I mean cult. Okay, if you were born into a cult, okay, indoctrinated since birth, and everybody around you believed what you were told, you would not know you were in a cult.
Of course.
Okay, you would not know until you were on the other
But that's
side.
the thing that we're not in the classroom. We are, but we live in the age of information right now. You got information at your fingertips.
Right.
But Brandon,
And look at what's exploded since
what are your
2015.
main things about the flat Earth? The flat Earth.
Well, I haven't even really gotten to a good point, but I haven't talked to you at all. So
No, I'm listening. I want to hear. I'm not really here to argue with you about it, or
Right.
anything. I want to hear your opinion on what got you to this road. Because I mean, we were talking even a little bit just before the podcast. You're a smart guy. I want to know like what your, basically what your thinking is on everything. So I'm trying
do me a favor if you would while we're doing this. Google how far away can you see the Statue of Liberty?
Yeah, but that's situational.
You're going to see the way this is worded. Like, are you Google?
I'm sure
All
you
right, I'll
probably
humor
find
it.
100 articles
Okay,
that say a different thing, but
statue. Okay, this is Google. First thing that pops up on Google. The Statue of Liberty in New York Harbor stands 326 feet above sea level, and on a clear day can be seen as far as 60 miles away. If the
60
Earth
miles
were a
away.
ball, Lady Liberty would sink 2,074 feet below the horizon. That is
Okay.
For WordPress, I don't know. I don't
Okay,
know
now
WordPress.
Okay. So
What kind of
where
weight
did
they-
that? No, but I mean that's just your first. Google how far away
Yeah, but
can
you know,
you see a
I
lighthouse?
can get my stuff to pop up first on Google too.
No, but I mean this isn't.
I mean, but you can.
The
There's
argument I've
techniques
heard
to
of
it.
like why you can't see like Mount Everest and shit is like it makes sense to me. I'm not really believing in like
No,
clouds or anything. Is air pollution, which I totally believe.
Right, and there's moisture.
There's a ton of shit in our air and stuff like that. That's why you can't. Even if you went to Tampa, you couldn't really see the tallest building in Orlando. Even though
So
it's
for
flat as shit.
360 degrees, our air is so polluted you wouldn't be able to see.
No, I'll give you a really.
die from pollution.
I'll give you a really good example.
Let me
I used to
explain.
live up in Chicago. Okay, on some days we used to go over to Michigan. They got dunes and stuff like that over there, and Indiana dunes and stuff. Okay, on some days you could see the Chicago skyline, and on some days you could. And it didn't mean it was pissed down rain or anything like that. It was temperature stuff. The moisture coming up off the water would like literally affect your vision, right? If you Google how far away you can see lighthouses, okay, it'll give you.
That's all. That's
Yeah,
all,
it'll give
that's
you.
all situational.
Okay,
It's not all like the
okay.
same.
The point of that is nobody's able to find a
All
curve.
right. Do you know if you stand directly on the coordinates for the North Pole, right?
Okay.
And you walk 1 mile south, you walk 1 mile west, and 1 mile north, you'll be exactly where you started, right? That can only happen on a circular planet. There's videos, time-lapse videos of people recording themselves doing this the whole time, and there's also time-lapse videos.
So
if
what
you
you're saying?
start Googling, there's
Wait,
time-lapse
hold on,
videos of people standing
You're
at the top of the globe watching this
You're a
everything
realist.
spin.
You're a realist, right? You're a realist. Okay. You just told me that there was videos of people basically marking out a
I
triangle.
mean, since we're talking about videos.
No. I agree. Okay, videos are.
There's GPS coordinates
No,
you can
but I'm
look up
saying-
of people doing these patterns and coming back going 1 mile north, 1 mile west, and 1 mile south, 1 mile north, and 1 mile west, 1 mile north, and get right a triangle and get right back to where they started. And that can only I think there's only maybe 2 or 3 places on Earth you can do that, or maybe even only one. And it can only look it up, Google it if you want to.
No, I believe- no,
and
no,
it's
I'm
on there.
trying
It can
to-
only happen on like a round planet.
I understand.
I mean, if there's no solid proof to debunk that's been proven, then I'm kind of like
you can't. Okay, now remember before, right? We broke down the sciences. Okay, right? In order for something to be scientific, okay, and you want facts, okay, you cannot take a mathematical, which is a formal science, okay, which is different than a natural science. You cannot take a hypothetical, okay, mathematical construct, okay, gravity, okay, and argue it against a natural science tangible fact. That is the sophistry that they've done to us, okay. And you can believe me or not believe me, but I swear to God, I'm telling you the fucking truth, okay. That is what has been done to us. All right, I like look at me.
I believe on levels. I believe on levels.
I'm telling you that is what has been done to us. They have overlaid a mathematical construct.
What are we here for? What are we doing? Like
That's the question. Okay, and something's been hidden from us. Okay, and we have been contained.
I mean, they give
okay?
us answers.
Okay, we have been contained. Think about the currency. Okay, think about what's going on around us on this place. Okay, whatever fucking shape it is.
Even Bitcoin.
Okay, think about we're being moved to blockchain. If you don't realize they're about to crash the dollar, you're a fool. Okay.
They've been about to crash the dollar for 40 years now.
Okay. Well, they'll do it when they're ready. Okay. They've only got our guns.
They do everything.
That's
when they're ready.
no, but I mean
they
that's
created the dollar when it was ready.
right. But I mean that's another story. But think about what's been done. Okay. All right. Our water's being poisoned. Our food's being altered. We're being vaccinated. We're being killed. We're being enslaved.
Population.
Okay. All right. Okay. You think that they wouldn't put up an invisible wall in our mind to contain us, so they can do that to us? Okay.
What's the invisible wall? What's the invisible wall?
The invisible wall is
All
the
the lies.
globe. No, the invisible wall is the globe, dude.
To contain us where then?
On the globe.
And doing
Wait,
where else would
outside
we
the
go?
globe?
Where else would we go?
What's outside the globe?
How would we get out there though?
What's outside the globe?
You know, Elon Musk is not contracted. Well, he has contracts with NASA because he does most of their payloads. But you know, he's a private invested SpaceX company. So he's in with the lie too, right? He's all.
Okay, well,
that's a
look
lot
at,
of people,
okay,
bro.
look, I'll give you a really good example. Okay, real recent example. Okay,
What about his car that's flying
Branson-
around past Mars just now?
Okay,
Like,
you believe there's a fucking car? All right, anyway, there's.
So what do you believe then?
I believe a lot of stuff, right? All right, I'll give you a good example. Remember back when
believe
Richard
nothing from
Branson
Earth, though.
and his buddy, right, went up in that balloon, Fawcett or whatever his name was. You remember that? They went up in a hot air balloon and traveled around and all that, right? Right after they got done doing that, okay, Richard Branson, right, decided he'll play a game with them, okay, because he got to see some shit when he was up there, okay. Fawcett, experienced pilot. Look at how Fawcett died, okay. Look
did
at
he
he crashed his plane in perfect weather, fucking unbelievable death, all right. And then Richard Branson becomes a knight, okay, and now he's going his Virgin Galactic shit is going off again, okay. One of them.
So
The Reaper's trying to get me.
Matches your shirt.
Yeah, it's like, shut the fuck up.
He's like, bullshit.
No, but okay, the water is level, man. Okay, water is contained by a shoreline. You know, there's not over 100 feet all across the plain. Okay, the original sea level was taken from one data point.
flat. The water would still be flat.
The water is what tells me it's a level plain. Okay, the topography of the earth goes up and down. You go from the Himalayas to Death Valley. Okay, the topography of the land is up and down. Okay,
So then we live in 2 dimensions, or
no, but
basically what that is.
No, not at all. But if you take
Up and down, right
no,
in front of you, that's 2 dimensions.
I
Maybe
think
because
it's on
we
that
see in
level.
3 dimensions, that's why everything's spherical or whatever.
No, but the sphere is the eyes. The reason that we do see any kind of curve would be.
I think it's a conscious thing. I think our ancestors were super more conscious than we were at a certain
For sure.
point. And I think maybe that they were so higher on their conscious that they seen in other dimensions that we did. And maybe that this Nibiru is something that's not visible to us, but it's there. Because from what they say as explaining the solar system and like all the gravity and the pulls from all the planets, like everything, it kind of makes sense, but it don't. And then when they throw that Sumerian Nibiru planet in there, it equals out.
Right,
and
right.
makes
It really
more
does make sense.
now.
It really
and they
makes
said
sense.
when you move it away from the equation, it causes more problems than actually making sense. I thought that's
Right.
just interesting.
No, it is really
That's-
interesting. Okay, and what I'm.
So are you
I'm-
open to thinking there might be like multiple, like string theory? Have you ever heard of like multiple dimensions?
No, I'm not really. No,
how it works.
where I'm at right now with it, okay, is and speaking of the Nibiru thing, okay, and all that is, I'm convinced that we live on a level stationary plane. Okay, the idea that I would know the extent of it. There's a lot of people out there, flat earthers, whatever. Okay, that try to push this model. The biggest one with the ice wall and the dome. They think.
Can
they
I
have
ask you this? Are those people that push that model, are they like the CIA and the Martin Luther King riots starting fights, or the CIA that
There's
infiltrated
the ones at the very
Black
top.
Panthers
The
and
ones at the very top, I believe, are.
They could be those. They could
I don't think that anyone. Okay, because I do.
So we live in a simulation then?
No, I don't think so.
What are we then? What do you, if you
I
had
think
to
that's the
put one, if you had to put one thing
That's the
together,
question.
no, but your
That's the
personal
question.
opinion,
And I think
not
it's
the
being hidden
question,
from us.
but your personal
Seriously.
opinion. If you had to put one answer together on what you think we could be right now, what do you think it would be?
I think we're being kept, okay,
But,
from
I
a
mean,
very close shoreline.
we're not a
okay,
simulation.
that we're not supposed to be like this.
We're not human, or
No,
how does it
we
work?
are human, okay, but look at a 2-year-old. If
created
you've been
us?
around a new child anytime recently, look at it like a 1 to 2-year-old, okay? We are born explorers, okay? We push the boundaries,
That's true,
right?
okay.
If you kept us contained, okay, we would be up against the fucking wall going, I want out of here.
I mean, we
okay,
went to the moon.
a large
We got rovers on Mars.
Okay.
satellites everywhere.
They got to do something with, last year, okay, the space agencies across this place, and yes, they are working in concert.
Those are a lot of cover-up
Okay,
supplies.
let me give you a figure.
Maybe they keep us busy with other shit.
Yeah, for sure.
Like,
$330 billion. Okay, in just a couple years, it will be $1 billion a day going to the space agencies. I'm not talking about
which one?
To all of them.
NASA definitely don't get that
No,
much.
all of them across the planet. All of them across
like
NASA gets 52 to 57 million, depending on who you hear, a day. Okay, $18 billion budget. Okay, last year's space budget across the plane was $330 billion.
For the entire world.
Across the plane. That's how I put it. I don't
We're just
bullshit. I know.
make sure that's what we mean by that.
Yeah, okay, everywhere. Okay, all the space agencies are working in concert. Okay, they are all doing it equally.
I mean, there's only like we're definitely not working with them because there was a space race. If you don't remember,
okay,
we can't be working with.
I think he's talking about like the UN.
Do you really believe? Okay, do you really believe these different governments are at odds with each other? Do you really buy
there's
that?
all kinds of wars all the time, so they got to be at odds with each other.
Or is that depopulation and getting rid of the useless eaters?
Let's work with each other and have wars and just kill everybody.
I mean,
let's look at vaccines. Let's look at water and fluoride in the water. Let's look at GMOs.
I'm all in with a good conspiracy. That's way too many people to be in on it. Way
No,
too many
it actually shortens it.
It's not. You're talking about every nation, every person in every nation's government.
You're talking about the
multiple
Earth. You're talking about the Earth being run by one criminal cabal. That's what you're talking about.
Yeah, it's
That's not that many
too
people.
many
No, it's a lot of people if you keep it in your head your way.
When you break
It's
it
the
down,
Earth being run.
you break it down and see what has to happen to run that way. That's a lot of people putting shit in play and in position for it to go like that. It's not going to happen
I think it's
naturally.
just chain of command, though.
Yeah, I mean, how would you?
That's still a lot of people. There's 8 billion
Yeah, but you
people on
just-
Earth. What do you think the chain of command is? 10 people out of 8 billion?
I'm just saying people just do what they're told. That's their
They
job.
do, but the chain of command is not 10 people out of 8 billion.
How many? Let me ask you
And
a
once it
question.
starts getting to hundreds of thousands, you're going to have a hard time keeping a secret.
Okay, you and I both know.
more than that.
You and I both know. Okay, that income tax has never been ratified. Right? We're not secret holders of this knowledge. A lot of people that listen to your podcast will know. Okay, how many people do you think are?
Certain states did vote for
Okay,
it.
but I mean, but it takes 2/3 to ratify a constitutional amendment.
So,
Okay, according to our paperwork that they threw
I
away.
agree, it's a scam.
No, okay, but we're not the only ones that know that. Okay, I guarantee you, if you go in and do a new job, knowing what you know, you're gonna fill out your W-4 like a good guy and turn that shit in and collect your fucking paycheck. Okay, regardless of what you fucking know. Okay, you're gonna still do what you need to do.
So why are we talking about aliens instead of that?
No, I'm just saying that we have.
We don't know that though. That's what I'm saying. We would know that if that many people were
You guys-
involved.
you guys-
Whether we didn't care about it or not,
Okay.
we would still know about it, but we don't.
Okay, it's coming to light. Okay, it really is. Okay, there's not.
You're talking about the deep state.
It's way beyond the deep state.
Yeah,
Okay,
deep state.
it's naive to think when I'll give you a good example. Okay, 5G. Okay, there's another evolution to this that's beyond flat Earth to me that my channel will eventually go to. But I think this is the most important thing for me to talk about right now.
His channel on YouTube is Eye Level Awakening. So
Yeah, I'm not
look it up,
trying to-
subscribe.
Plug it in. Yeah.
But
Robert Matthews.
I'm if you look at anything, okay, across the plane, okay, be it vaccines, be it GMOs, be it the fracking with oil, be it 5G, be it with the health concerns and all that. But there's a real big problem behind that people aren't aware of, or some people aren't.
No,
Most
yeah,
people
I've heard about
aren't.
it.
Yeah, most people
Of
aren't.
course.
And
It's a military weapon.
well, it's a Chinese social credit that's already being carried out.
Right.
If you guys look at your IDs, the
Yeah.
entire United States will be real ID by 2020. I don't want to take any topics or whatever,
Okay,
but
right.
like there's something happening that free thought and free speech is an endangered species.
Yeah, look at Julian Assange.
Right.
Freedom of press, that shit's dead now.
Look at YouTube. Or Me Too.
You guys checked out
Me
the Julian?
Too. Me Too.
I did,
Every time you try to
yeah,
say something,
yeah.
it's whatever. You can't have freedom of
And
speech
it's,
somewhere else.
I don't want to get off too
Right.
topic either, but it's just curious that he's now being arrested after this Mueller report, the Mueller report.
Even
Curious to see how that might play out.
Right,
with each other.
and interesting too is that the IMF just approved a $4.2 billion aid package to Ecuador, which of course in the last week, which absolutely had nothing to do with them allowing a foreign a party to bum rush their country in their embassy. That 4.2 IMF had nothing to do with that, right? We're supposed to believe that shit. You know what I mean?
There's a lot of stuff.
I mean, they do lie
going on.
about a lot of shit. They do manipulate a lot of
Okay,
shit. Like, look,
we have-
they do it to their own people. So I'm not saying they don't do that.
Yeah.
Of course,
Okay.
of course they do that. That's what
Right.
that's what we're about.
Like this is the hardest thing. Okay, this is something that they put in our head. Okay, that we never again faced in our life. Okay, before you doing this or whatever. Okay, this is something I went through my entire life and never questioned. Okay, I was telling him I was a fucking NASA fanboy. I was, that's why I got sucked down the common element and then the Nibiru hole. Okay, because like it's always fascinating. I've been bedazzled. I didn't watch the original Star Trek, Next Generation, Voyager, Deep Space Nine, fucking all that shit. Okay, never really too much Star Wars, but you know what I mean. I was in it.
Gotcha.
Okay, my entire fucking life. Okay, and they ruined it for me. And really when you look at it.
I mean, what's the most convincing thing? Like, you're so convinced that they ruined it for you. Like
Like-
I mean, I know they lie a lot. We all know that. But what is the most convincing
There is-
proof
there is-
besides them lying?
Okay, there is no proof, okay, of the ability for gravity, okay, to pull water in. Okay, all right.
So what's holding the water down? If we're not spinning,
Okay,
why are we not?
I've been
Well, he said
up is
that.
up,
He
up
said
is
that.
up, and down is down, and everything has its level. And
That's it.
according to its density, yes,
What
it's
governs that
simple.
though? What governs that?
The way everything fucking is, man.
That's the way it appears to be through the same thing.
Okay,
that
let's
you
just say
is man.
let's just say it's as simple as what it is. Okay, let's assume that we are men and we don't know the answers to
So we're
everything.
not breathing oxygen.
It's a combination of gases, right?
I mean, it is, but we're not. We're
Okay.
breathing.
Where did you get that though? What, oxygen?
No, he's just trying to see if I. No, he's trying to test me to see if I deny everything. It's understandable. I've had these conversations. Okay. Interesting enough, I love it when people do this, and trust me, you'll know over time that I have actually given this some fucking thought because there's no way I would open myself to the ridicule. I'll put it this way: I could grow a full beard, dress in a purple fucking dress, and go into a bank in the middle of on a Friday when it's completely packed, everybody cashing their paychecks, in a purple dress and heels with a beard, talking about I just got abducted by aliens, and I would get more respect than telling somebody I think the Earth is flat.
I don't know about that.
Oh, I
maybe
do for sure.
40 years ago.
No,
Nowadays you won't.
No, I guarantee
you'll be the first thing on World Star Hip Hop that anybody sees. Like,
No, I'm just saying it's more acceptable for me to be that. Okay, I definitely wouldn't put myself in this position studying what I've studied
Right.
to ever come forward with something like this. My channel isn't monetized. None of my videos do you ever see like, share, subscribe.
Yeah,
Okay,
gotcha.
all right. I'm doing this from the heart. Okay, I've never put myself on YouTube for any truth I've discovered. I've discussed it
But
with
you should
friends.
put a little
Well,
subscribe button under your video.
That's cool. Okay, but I'm just
Especially
saying.
even what you're saying, you want them to
I'm-
know, like, it's easy for them to hit that button and be right there. with
Everybody
you.
that I've liked their content, I've subscribed and hit the bell. I'm a grown man. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
But some
I
people
don't
are lazy.
think-
You know, they're.
Well, if you're too lazy, I look at it this way, okay? If you're too lazy to do the intelligent thing,
No.
then my content's not for
Yeah,
you
yeah,
anyway,
sure.
okay? I'm trying to wake fucking, you know what I mean? I'm on a mission. So, and it's just me with my little shovel, okay? But I'm going to use my
Just
little
digging
fucking
away.
shovel. You know what I mean?
So if The Earth's not round. What happens when you get to the other side with that shovel?
Okay, if you look at my channel, okay, I've got a good things to know playlist. Okay, how to start fires, how to preserve different foods, how to harvest meat, how to skin things, how to do different things. I've been on since I realized this, I realized that one day we may get a chance to go to the other shore. The control mechanism that's kept us enslaved may break
So you
down.
believe there's another shore then?
For sure.
See, that's what I was
everything.
I was trying to explain to you.
I was trying to explain.
So you believe there's another shore?
That's what,
an island?
that's what I was trying to get with him. Is that there's maybe it's not your map, but the maps I've seen, and it's not even the AE map.
Right.
It's more big. It's like bigger than that. And that we're just kind of maybe not in the center, or wherever the hell we might be,
Right.
but that there is other planes and other land masses
a lot
out there.
more land.
So there's no space.
I
You
believe
don't believe in
that-
space? There's no space.
The high altitude balloons, the way it appears to me, okay, and just talking about, and I've watched most of those high altitude balloons are about 3 hours long, okay, to watch them come up.
That's a lot.
altitude,
You watch them.
okay, but I'm trying to look at different things when I watch them. Okay, I'm looking at I've noticed by watching them that gas seems to settle, which explains the gradient pressure. Okay, the idea. This is one of the best proofs. They tell you that space is like a 17 torr, maybe or something like that. A perfect vacuum. What they say it's not a perfect vacuum. Okay, but something like 17 torr. Okay, compared to our PSI down here. Okay, never can you recreate a vacuum existing next to a pressurized system without a solid barrier, and that's where all these fools get off with their dome. Okay, I don't believe space is a vacuum. Okay, and it appears that at some point when you go up in it,
You're talking about space out of our solar
I'm
system.
talking about going up. I'm not talking. I don't buy the solar system shit anymore.
But that's out of our solar system, though. Up is out of our solar system.
No, up is off this planet.
Because they say that those planets that's being held together, that's what the gravity creates. That
I'm telling you, if you look at P900 or P1000 visual of those planets, you'll see it's energetic energy, man. It's not terraforming. The moon appears to be terraforming.
so we're like in a real matrix. Everything's energy based.
No,
I mean,
I'm
we're
telling you,
energy first. But
no, it is like the Matrix in the sense, okay, and this is something that you'll seriously have to. You may brush me off as being.
no, I'm trying to get an overall understanding of it.
But
Like the whole thing, not just the,
right. Okay, well, it's my opinion that we're just being kept with the shore. Okay, the Antarctic Treaty that now is supposed to be protecting the bottom of the globe. Okay, and they're saying for some marine reason, anything below the 70th parallel, I believe you'll have to check. I'm not sure if that's exactly right. I think it's the 70th. Okay, but on a flat plane, if you put the like say the North Pole more towards the center of the plane, okay, that we know of. Okay, I'm not saying that's all there is. And you go out to the 70th parallel or whatever the Antarctic Treaty is. By the way, the only treaty that all the nations have agreed to and have never broken. But they've never broken it, even in times of war. We've never broken those treaties, coincidentally. But what essentially they do is
why
put a
do you
circle.
say that? Like, what's your reason for them never breaking?
Because that's defense.
Defense.
The Antarctica is defense. The bottom of the globe, the 70th.
So it is the ice wall then?
No, I don't think it's an ice wall. If there
I
was
mean, a fence, a wall, that's the same thing.
and I think that there may be more north too. Okay, everything points to north. The compasses point to north. The North Star. All indications in my heart. If I had one direction to travel, I would go north. I wouldn't go south.
I mean, our ancestors went north.
Okay, they built the ice wall. They got all this hype going south. I'm going north. Okay, you know what I mean? I mean, the narrative, the controlled opposition, the government agents, where they want to lead us, the way they seize every movement that's ever happened in the
Do
history.
you
of
think
man.
everything is controlled on that much of a level? Like, that's a lot.
If you had to
I'm
control,
just asking you. Yes, right? You do. To me, that's a lot. I just want to know.
have you? Okay, do you think that like Albert Pike's 1871 letter, talking about Israel and stuff? Do you believe that stuff's going to happen? Do you believe that they
I believe
orchestrated one and two?
some of it, but for everything, I'm just saying.
No,
to
I
me,
mean,
that's a lot.
you believe the Lusitania went down the way they say, the Gulf of Tonkin, you believe all those?
Yeah, I mean,
Pearl Harbor, you believe all that shit happened the way it
question
is?
a lot of things. I question a lot of things.
So I'm saying if they would go to those great lengths, okay, we've had presidents assassinated, you know what I mean? I mean, Ford was killed in Lincoln Theater, Lincoln, or you know what I mean?
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
the weird,
The common area. Yeah, I got you.
Okay, so
right.
and
Of course, I
think
meant
that what they've
Lincoln in
done,
the Ford
okay,
Theater,
to people,
and,
we disarm
So we're
vaccines.
just so
I mean,
brainwashed at this point that
sheeple.
they're doing it. I mean,
Kennedy
they're doing it.
was killed in a
we,
Lincoln.
like it's interesting that you bring up Assange, right? On one of my videos on there, I've listened to this. It's like about 45 minutes long. I've listened to his interview. I don't know how many times. God, every time I listen to it, I hear something else because this guy is so well informed. I'm sure he'll never see the light of day again. They're going to kill his ass. I mean, for sure.
They do all of it.
Yeah, I mean, they're going to get him.
William Cooper.
But he more or less implied that somewhere around 2000 that the way he put it, it's kind of like the AI is basically taking control by now. Okay, and I don't know that that's how it plays out or whatever. But
Not by now or so.
no, well, I mean, if you look at Chinese social credit, I mean, if
That
you,
shit's scary.
Yeah,
It's
and
just
well, that'll be
one
completely
place, though.
no, it's not just one place.
Right now it is.
Okay, it's beginning elsewhere. It's already on iPhones in this country. Okay, it will be.
iPhones ain't even Chinese.
Okay, there's a reason why they're shoving.
I
Yeah,
also
Chinese
talked about the
companies.
Chinese
No,
ghost
I
cities,
they're like
but that was cut
a lot
out
of
too
biggest-
here in a second.
And if you look into the top
Chinese
five,
actually have the second biggest cellular company in the
Hawaii,
world right now.
Hawaii, what is it? Hawaii?
Yeah, and that's
Huawei.
China. It's outsold Apple, and it's number two to us. Got Samsung.
right?
Yeah, but that new one or something like that. Like we can't have it over here.
Yeah, it's like
Right, but you're
why?
still
Because it's on around the globe. If
Look,
it was
they're-
flat, we could have it over here.
No, but
All right.
you look at the top 5 AI companies. Okay, the top 5 AI companies are all out of Israel. Okay, if you stop looking at things like their separate governments in competition and start looking at it, if you had to farm people,
They already do.
Right?
They've been farming.
Okay,
Government or human
okay,
farming.
but it's not just in this
We give
country.
the welfare out. Like we give you the milk and cheese you need to survive. We give you your shots. We farm you enough to get the money that we need to generate.
Right, and coincidentally, you die of cancer.
From eating the food that you're-
2-3 years after you died, and coincidentally, Bayer just bought Monsanto. So
Exactly.
all right, so you can.
But for every argument that you present, like, oh, they lied about this. They lied about fucking Paul Harvard. They lied about this. They lied about that. At the same time, you know that people
Water
can.
tells you everything. Water can't lie.
But people can also argue like, why did they kill William Cooper? Why did they kill all these other? And if aliens don't exist and all this shit don't exist and we're living on a flat, why would they kill him? Or there's a lot of them and the list goes on and on. Harvard, Garvey, or whatever. Like, the list
Right.
goes, why
So
would
what
they,
if
if it's
what if
fake
there was-
information and
okay,
there's not, why would they kill
look, they've already sold us a bunch of shit by saying fossil fuels. There's no way back. I'm good.
them? Right. You
There's-
get water actually? Was that what you're saying?
No,
So he was showing you that at this level.
it's always level. And as much as Einstein wanted to, Tesla nailed him. Okay,
For sure.
and the mathematical construct that started from a premise that it was a sphere. It took him years to work out to finally make it fucking work, which nobody could fucking understand, but a very few people. Okay, if anybody else, right? That mathematical construct does not change the physics of liquid. Okay, you've got to look into how sheet glass is produced. Okay, sheet glass is produced
Fire,
by
lightning?
no, they make a molten bed of tin. Okay, and they pour liquid glass over it. Okay, these glass manufacturing plants are a quarter mile long. The cooling bed for this glass, they call glass perfectly flat. Okay, the molten steel or the molten tin.
So how are levels never level then? If we're
It's always level.
It's not. It's not.
That's how we build everything. You realize that
He
he
cut out all
that.
that.
Yeah, D Marvel did it years ago, okay, and it was on Reddit and it went viral, and that's how he blew up, okay,
For being proved wrong.
No,
So,
but
but levels are never.
okay.
We wouldn't have to level shit if we were on a flat
Okay,
plane.
well, no, it would never work on a sphere. All right, now let me ask you. You mentioned
that's why you need a
airplane.
level to
Okay,
get it
you
to
imagine. Now, I want you to do a little thought experiment with me. Okay, you take off on a plane. Okay, let's say you're flying from Florida out to Cali. You ever done that flight or Colorado?
I've actually been
I
to
have
Colorado.
Colorado, yeah.
Okay, so you take off here, right? Goes up 35,000 feet, 40,000 feet, whatever. Levels off. Okay, take off your seatbelts. You wander around. Let me ask you. During that 3-hour flight, 3.5 hours.
yes,
Okay,
yes.
during that 3-hour flight, do you feel the nose continuously going down like this? You do realize that the plane the entire time is flying with its nose up, right? And the artificial horizon that's made is made from
All
a
right,
gyroscope that
listen.
puts
If I'm flying around something this small, then I'd have to keep curving the curvature.
No,
It's
no, no.
so huge that you don't feel the curvature. That's like why you don't see the curvature
Okay.
from space.
All right,
You're not
let me-
going to feel the curvature while you're flying. You're not going to feel the nose dip around the curvature.
Okay.
It's too big to feel that.
Okay, now that is what they tell us. Okay, right? I'll give you.
I mean, it's provable.
Okay, I'll give you.
The instruments and the science that they give us, that's provable.
Okay, I'll give you a real good example. Have you ever heard of a Navy railgun?
Navy railgun.
Right, it's an electromagnetic gun. You guys should check it out on my.
Electromagnetic gun, that sounds
Yeah,
interesting.
you should check it out on my channel sometime. It's excellent.
What does it do?
It's electromagnetic, and the Navy, it's implemented now in the U.S. Navy and Chinese. Okay, and you'd have to watch it to see. But what it does is it fires a solid projectile, non-guided projectile. Okay, at hyper velocity. Okay, when it leaves the
Hypervelocity?
hyper
What does
velocity, at least Mach 5. Okay,
Mach 5, so it's-
at least
okay,
Mach 5. When it leaves the weapon, the reported figures from Popular Science, and this is pre-flat Earth awareness or whatever, before Eric Dubé published, like
Isn't Mach 5 only like capable on a sphere, on this round planet with like gravity
It
and
should
shit
be.
though?
It should be, but
so
okay.
we're observing something that shouldn't happen.
No, yeah, exactly. If it were actually a ball. Okay, so and it actually leaves the gun at 7.5. Okay, but by the time it arrives at its target, and the published figures, okay, and there's going to be probably a greater distance than that. The U.S. figures a maximum effective range of 100 miles, and the Chinese say 124 miles. Okay, on a ball, 24,901 miles. Okay, and these weapons are non-guided. Okay, they fire directly to the target. They showed one example in Popular Science that I took. They took 200 nautical miles with traditional ballistics. Took 8 minutes or 6 minutes to arrive at the target. Okay. Fired from like a Navy gun to a ground target. Okay? The Navy rail gun is a direct fire at Mach 7.5 is where it leaves the weapon system, and it arrives in the target, or it says it arrives to horizon, which is 3 to 5 miles
Is
or
it
whatever.
GPS guided or?
No, it's a solid projectile, and the guy even goes through it in my clip that I have on my channel. It's the from the Navy guy himself in charge of the program. It's so this isn't like debatable or whatever, right? So at 100 miles, though, if you take 100 times 100 times 8 inches, right, divided by 12 to get the feet, you end up with well over a mile of curvature missing. Okay, and in fact, they haven't been able to find measurable curvature anywhere. But that system is impossible on a globe. You would literally, if you can visualize it, you would literally have to fire into the water to hit a target that far away. If you feel me on that, it would
I
be
understand what you're saying.
Okay, and if you really look at it, I mean, for tangible, okay, and we talked about moving or not moving. Everybody's heard about the Coriolis effect, okay, and you hear about it with the toilet flushing, which they proved is ridiculous. It's
So we're just some anomaly then, just in the middle of nowhere, circling a bunch of energy balls that we think are planets.
No, I mean, it was hard for me to get, and I still look up at the sky every night, man. I'm fascinated by everything, and it's to be honest with you, it's
I just
way
want you to
more
say yes, that's what we are, so I can know.
No, I don't know. But I'll give you one on the. I'll give you one on the motion. Okay, right? It's another video on my thing. Not to plug my shit too much, but the Coriolis,
plug it, bro.
right? The Coriolis. I went with the sniper plane. Okay, because long range snipers, we've heard it before, and I've got a guy that testifies on there making the claim again that long range snipers actually have to adjust for the Coriolis if they're shooting east or west. Okay. That's the claim. Anyway, anybody can research it. So I found this thing. It was old Mythbusters, and they pulled it down now. I started
But
using
don't just research if that's the claim. Research why that's the claim.
Right. Well, if you were spinning 1,000 miles in one direction, okay, the Earth would drop away or rise up to you. Okay, in the heliocentric model, there's a reason why they would have to adjust if it was true.
I mean, are all these calculations coming from a perfectly, like, circular? Because I mean, the Earth's like a sphere, but it's still
It's not even close to a sphere. The water makes it impossible to be a sphere. Okay?
what they say it's a sphere, right? They say
Okay,
it's a sphere. They say
you have to
but the
already
land
map
is
it
not
as
always
that.
level. It's not
No,
always.
it's not at
so
all.
you got to account for that. You can't
Okay,
be like,
okay, here's
in
the
every
thing.
theory.
Here's the thing, though. Okay, and that's why I said I'm going to accept their number on the water. Okay, because I really don't know. I actually think the way they do everything is probably inverse. How they tell us that the planet is 70% water. Okay, I believe that means that the plane is probably 70% land. Okay, that's just because they seem to flip everything. Okay, but if you take what they claim, okay, something that is 70% level could never form a sphere. Okay, and you can't argue a mathematical construct up against physical
What do you mean by
reality.
70% level?
Every time, okay, liquid when it's contained. Water, bodies of water, and I'm not talking about drops because you can do weird shit with meniscus and surface tension and shit. I'm not talking about fucking around on a little pin I'm talking about bodies of water when you get like pond, pool, your bathtub, you know what I mean, a pond, a lake, the ocean. The original time that they took sea level, they took it from one data
So
point.
what about the sea level
The
and the
variation,
gravitational
okay,
of the moon?
but you can't buy
High
the
tide, low
gravitation.
tide?
You can't buy the
High tide, low tide. What is that?
What happened with the Great Lakes, man?
How does that
The moon
happen if
forget
it's
about
flat though?
The moon forget about the
Where
Great
is it
Lakes.
going if it's flat? It should be stationary. It should never move. We should
I have no idea.
we should get one level lake.
That's
One
why I
level
want to see the
ocean.
shoreline. That's why I want to see the shoreline. Okay, because I know
If
it's
you had to pick one specific location with all your heart, like talking purely right now, where do you think you would go to get to that shoreline, or you don't have an idea right now?
No, I think like northwest. I think.
Because everything's south, they direct you south, so you think everything north, right?
And also because they've the length of time that it took them to put they appeared to know. Okay, imagine yourself on a ball. Okay, Alaska and the United States and Russia only have recently put listening posts and stuff like that in the big scheme of things. Okay, really recently in the last 20, 30 years have intensified their listening to the top of the planet. Okay, in the helium model, right?
Places that Tesla
almost
listen to.
almost as if they knew nothing would be coming from that direction. Okay, if you're on a ball, okay, and your enemy is completely undefended, it would not be hard at all to manipulate yourself to come from that point. Okay, it makes the ball really impractical the way that they defended themselves. Okay, it was almost like they knew that something wasn't coming from that way. All right, there's also great evidence across the plain, and we were talking
But
about
you
the
don't
Aztec
think
lines
that
and
there's other ways
Easter
that they
Island.
would have figured out that
I think these people have left. Okay, if you look at the anomaly of Easter Island
with the statues?
yeah, with the statues. Okay, they can't understand. It appears that they all of a sudden depleted their resources, like they didn't know that they were going to run out of fucking trees or something. Okay, it makes much more sense to me. No, it makes much more sense to me that they built boats and exited the populace and left. Okay, you look at the Mayan civilization, you look at the Nazca lines, you look at there's evidence.
They've been
There's evidence.
building bamboos for
But there's
hundreds of
up in Peru. I mean, there's evidence. If you look at the monoliths and stuff like that, there's evidence of civilizations that have been here and gone. And I don't believe they were wiped out. I believe they figured out that they found out that they could leave.
And they did. But what kind of type of means of travel you think that would be? Like planet hopping or like?
I think like boats, and I think a lot of those signs, okay, are evidence of which way they went.
You know, I heard some shit like it was a crazy ass theory, but it was like you can turn your body inside out and dimensionally travel. It's weird as fuck. I don't know. But it was just.
I don't know. I'm a lot more grounded. I'm an old guy, so like you know what I mean. I'm a lot more like I believe there's a physical place that.
So no heaven, no hell, then, right?
Do you believe that those people left, like, did a mass exodus all around the same time, the Mayans, Easter Island and stuff? Do you think they left around the same time? Or do you
I really do. I really do. I think that there's if you look at the people that are if you look at the people that are in charge right now, they appear to be bloodthirsty, ruthless, fucking vicious, fucking people.
To back that up, you know what I always said? I always thought to myself, the people that are in charge, like of the world and the planet and all these wars and all this shit going on, I always thought they either know that there's no heaven and no hell because they do some ruthless ass shit and they know there's no consequences for it. So I agree with that shit.
Right. So, but if there's a lot of evidence that there was from the building construction and stuff that we found everywhere. There's pyramids and shit in China. There's evidence of civilizations, building styles and shit all across the plain that are really, really similar.
The same,
okay.
sure.
There's a lot of evidence. Right. There's a lot of evidence that there was a worldwide civilization.
Sure.
That they
what was it called?
Pangea.
Okay, I don't know. I haven't gone down.
Well, that's just like that. If all the continents were one and
fit together,
I don't know.
But I mean, that makes sense.
I think if it, I think
the structure of what you're saying.
Yeah, I think if it wasn't, okay.
And all those people are gone now. Like they're all just like,
but all the remnants is left over in different parts of the world.
But if they had shifted from one continent, because I know what you're talking about now, but if they had shifted from, it would have been more destroyed. If it was one landmass.
Pangea. Well, I agree, and I said the same thing.
It takes a lot of time. According to that, it takes a lot of time.
Right. But what if it was one cohesive people? Okay, the way the land is now. Okay.
So you believe in aliens? Yes or no?
Yeah.
All right, cool. Keep going.
Okay. But they don't come from hundreds of thousands of light years away. They come from just over there.
They're visiting,
and if you listen back to Kennedy's speech, the one that talks about all the we'd rather have this than that, and that, if you listen to the entire
the whole space race there,
right? But if you listen to his speech, he said the enemy used to be far away and distant, and now they're close.
Yeah.
Okay.
I remember that.
Okay. All right. So I mean everything probably ties together, right? But if you were a peaceful people, right, a worldwide civilization, you might have developed to the point where you didn't even have a concept of war or enemy or maybe even personal property or
to go along with that. I heard that dude said aliens came here to help us advance on a spiritual, more happier level than the war-taking level that we like. They came and supposedly the American government denied them and like shit like that, or governments denied them. Like now we're doing this, but it makes sense. Now.
But if you were,
it goes in with that.
If you were all these people across the plain and you were peace-loving, maybe you had no fucking weaponry. Okay, you definitely. Why would you?
If you didn't, yeah.
Let's think about outside the box. Okay, all right, of cooperation.
Got you.
Of you and your homies in its natural state without created agitation.
Got you.
Without materialism, without separation. Okay, who knows? Okay, for humanity. All right, and then you have this fucked off group of people that would vaccinate and fucking and poison your fucking water and your food and enslave you and fucking and give you cancer when you're in old age and fucking hide your and
check this out. You believe in lands and mainlands and islands. All right, what if the mainland is Eden and we're everything else? Because if you listen to Genesis, when Cain killed Abel, it was Adam and Eve, they bared Cain and Abel, and they were the only ones in the garden. What if Eden is the mainland and we're not the mainland, right? What if when Cain killed Abel, this is proven in Genesis, Cain killed Abel, right? God came down, which who comes down from anywhere? Maybe the alien we were just talking about. They come down, they figure out Cain killed Abel. Right. Listen. What God does in Genesis is He casts Cain out of Eden, which could be the mainland, right? So He cast Cain out of the mainland, but Cain he objectifies. He don't want to leave. He says, "I will be killed out there." So basically, in Genesis, he's saying there's other things out there that can kill him. That it's not just Adam and Eve and Cain and Abel. He's already in Genesis. They're already admitting that they're saying something else out there. And not only that, in Genesis, God, he says, okay, you're right, and He marks him. So He said, I'll mark you so you won't be killed out there. So God acknowledges that there's people out there.
Right.
Two, maybe us on that subland, not the mainland, and Eden is the mainland.
Well, if you think about how many different civilizations,
when you said that, a bunch of information came together, and I thought of that.
That makes total sense, though.
It could be.
I mean, well, it's
could be.
But if
I don't know about you, but I'm going to spark another one.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Cool. Keep going.
But if you think about it, okay, there is mass evidence, okay, and in Africa they've got these rings. There was supposed to be hunter-gatherers there or whatever, right? Yeah. And they've got these rings, and they say that the stones. You mentioned something about the moon, but they said that these stones ring like a bell when they're hit. Okay. No, and
something was cut out here, but I don't remember what it was.
There's a lot of fake shit going on.
There was all kinds of fake shit going on. Anyway,
but it just proves that it's fake.
It doesn't prove anything else.
But yeah, I agree. We're lied to on a daily basis, man. Like,
but if there was land really close, okay, if you look at all these different civilizations that are just disappeared, okay, if you had this warring faction of people coming in, okay, these ruthless motherfuckers. I mean, if you think about it, in the United States, we killed over 59 million Indians that nobody talks about.
Over 100 million. They like to say 50 million was the number. It was over 100.
Okay, so I haven't checked it out.
It's not like you're wrong.
But I mean,
that's the number they put.
It's a big number.
Right.
And at the end, you know what happened? At the end of World War II, I think there was less than 200,000 or something like that.
Okay, what if these destroyed? And they didn't just do it here. They did it in Australia to the Aborigines.
Me and my sister, so that's in our family.
They did it in Australia to the Aborigines. Okay, they did it in South America. You hear about the Spaniards coming in and wiping out them and everything. Okay,
Puerto Rico, Cuba, all of them was invaded by the Spaniards and
okay,
Africans.
these civilizations that disappeared. Okay, especially like Easter Island, like certainly someone would have saw their resources being depleted. Okay, to me it makes sense that they built boats and got the fuck out of there. Okay, and all these places, the Mayans everywhere that we find these, you don't see any bones except for in Paris, which is really weird. If you check in Paris underground, that's really fucking crazy.
There's a lot in the caves over there. And shit.
Yeah, so I don't know what happened over there, you know, but it appears to me, but the biggest proof for the flat Earth, okay, is that water doesn't bend. Okay, and you can't bend it with a math problem. Okay, and the guy with the math had an agenda. You know, he had something. You even mentioned that you thought he was working. I've seen pictures of him where he's doing different shit that was Illuminati or whatever, you know. I mean, I don't know for sure, okay? But I know water doesn't bend. And I know when you, I've got a video where a guy follows...
But you know, if you go up high enough, and water does bend. But it doesn't here because of gravity.
Okay.
But if you see water in a space station or bubbles floating around, the shit bends and manipulates. You can do all. You can poke it and you can do all kinds of shit with it.
So you believe the
It does
space station is up there?
bend. I believe this. I looked it up. I think we both looked it up. For them, the amount of satellites that they claim to have in space, for them to have that much, I think they would have to launch like 9 a day since like 1970. Yeah. But at the same time, I was looking into SpaceX and shit like that. And Elon Musk, he takes like 3-4 satellites up at a time when he goes and like deploys that.
So
shit.
what does he go? Once a year, twice a year?
No, he set a record last year for going like 22 times in 1 year. He's got them fucking reusable rockets that land on the room and all that shit.
Never in a million years. But if you check out...
it.
I know.
We should drive down and watch one of those space launches.
I would love to see one in person. But
are we all about it?
who's the
all about it?
Yeah, who's the world's largest consumer of helium?
Of helium?
Yeah, for balloons. Who would you guess?
The world's largest.
China?
I would say us because we do a lot of fucking...
How about NASA?
NASA?
Yeah, and you guys should check out the Swedish
Google,
Space Corporation, their balloon launch program,
why
and
NASA
look at the
uses
numbers.
so much helium. And let's see what they're calling.
You're not going to get that there.
But let's see what it says.
Deeper.
Let's see what it says. If we get anything.
Yeah, you
That's
might.
cool. This is what the show's about: is questioning everything, researching everything. So,
But the Swedish Space Corporation does a shitload of balloon launches, and if you look into Echo
that's
1,
because they're back in time. They don't have rockets.
no,
They suck at life.
missions, you can see mission logs where they've launched NASA shit.
Just joking, bro.
I'm dead serious.
It's saying because using helium is the only fluid which will maintain a vapor phase in the presence of the LH2. Anything else would freeze.
Makes sense. Could you Google why water is always level and see what it says? Please, sir.
Well, they've redefined level now. You know that?
They redefined everything. These guys manipulate.
Level is perpendicular to the center now, not
So you
level.
believe everything is beaming off of cell towers?
Yeah, for sure.
But what about these satellite Google images? How do they get these high images?
High altitude balloons. I mean,
high altitude. How many do they got? A million of them? More than a million floating around the world?
You can Google map. You can Google map how old is your image that you're looking
at. One of your videos of your boy going up with his balloons would have seen footage of all these other balloons with.
They would
images
also seen a
floating around.
satellite.
They're not even out of the atmosphere. They're under the ionosphere.
Right.
Ionosphere. They won't see none of that right now. But I do agree on.
Okay, let me ask you a question. What are
because there's no
satellites made
satellite. Because there's no satellites. I agree on this. Every like NASA photo that you see from Earth or whatever, you don't see no satellite.
Right.
If there's so many satellites up there, you would see more. I agree on that for sure.
Right.
But at the same time, those balloons, I can't agree that all those images are. That's a lot of fucking balloons.
Yeah, but think about Google Images. How old are those pictures?
That many balloons up there are highly debunkable.
No, not really.
For sure. Somebody would have proved it. You would see them in
There's people that have come out and said that what these balloons do is they go up and they stay up, some of them for months, okay, right? And when they go off at night, because the air cools or whatever, okay, they actually drop down as much as 10,000 feet, and they've got these planes, these military recovery planes that can go and capture these balloons.
I believe you.
You know, come down in their parachutes.
About how much in balloon videos?
All right. So ask this question: How often does Google refresh their photos of their satellites?
It'll tell you on the page that you look at
how long ago it was taken?
how long ago the image was. Because I looked at a house of mine that was a while back. You know what I mean?
That was on Google.
Yeah, it was on Google Maps.
Fuckers that lied to us about everything.
No, but I'm saying if the Antarctic Treaty puts a circle around us at the 70th parallel,
It's typically 1 to 3 years old, like the images you see.
That's not
from Google Earth
Yeah,
and things like that.
that's a lot of balloons. Then, like we would be able to see those.
Listen,
I agree. We're fucking being lied to on a mass scale. I
know it's a big leap.
Like we're being manipulated. Like my father was in the Vietnam War. Like he's seen some shit. He was on the other side of the world. Like, and just some of those stories. It's just.
Okay, the Earth isn't spinning. Okay, there was a guy that shot 3 50-count rounds up in the air. Okay, they went up, they landed close enough for him to hear.
That was his personal account.
No, it's on my thing. I captured it off of a
But that was
YouTube
his
video.
personal account.
That was his personal account. I originally was using a MythBusters episode that they didn't count on me using, but they pulled it down. So I guess I'm a threat. I don't know. It was on the premise of 4th of July and New Year's, people firing a gun up and down. Would it hurt you when it came back down?
Right.
Okay, that was the premise of the show. Nothing about Earth spin, right? So they shot the gun up in the air, and the bullets landed close enough for them to hit, right? Yeah. And so when I got onto the flat Earth thing, I was like, I remember that, right? Something in my head, weird investigative memory or whatever. And so I went and looking for it, and the only thing I could find is a clip that I used.
Because they shot cannons up. They did these.
Right, but MythBusters has pulled down the original episode, but I found some guy that shot, and they look like, I said don't attempt this shit at home because these guys look like Billy Bob and, knee deep in a six-pack. I mean,
we're just going to try this.
Yeah, no, they looked foreign, but the way that they
don't try this at home, so don't try this at home.
Yeah, they looked not foreign, but they were Hispanic or whatever. But they acted like Billy Bob knee deep in a six-pack, okay? And the guy sits there and takes his 50 cal and like boom, boom, and the second shot he blows his fucking hat off and the bullet in a jacket.
What the
okay?
fuck?
But what you can hear,
that close, he probably went deaf.
What you can hear though, and they did it a couple times. I captured the last time. I think I put a link to the original video, but it goes up for 1 minute and 50 seconds. Okay, the Earth is supposed to be moving a half a kilometer per second. Okay, so granted, the bullet didn't go up; it didn't have the velocity.
Based on what point of view though? From any one given point, or
it doesn't matter. They weren't standing at the North Pole. Okay?
I mean, you got to base that fact off. If it's moving, you got to base off where it's moving from though.
Okay, a half a kilometer per second. Okay,
from one point, right?
You don't have to be good at math for this. A half a kilometer per second. Okay, it stays up 1 minute and 50 seconds. On what fucking planet would you hear the round go? You wouldn't.
So you believe this guy then?
He wasn't making a point. I captured an observation and realized what I'm looking at. The guy fired straight up. The bullet came right back down next to him. He didn't move anywhere. There's no other explanation.
No video editing or nothing like that?
No, there's no other explanation of it. Okay? I mean, the guy shot it up. I witnessed what I saw. I'm the one.
But you can find videos of people doing the exact opposite too.
Yeah, I'd be willing to fucking go and do it because I can shoot. But I mean, literally, and it was when I couldn't find the MythBusters or I find the butchered version of it that I felt like I couldn't prove my point because I'd gotten in a heated argument with this guy. Or Globe. I don't take offense. I call him Globe called zealots. Okay, because people that
I'm not even sure now. So
yeah,
I think we might be on an island going. I think we might be on a truman show right now.
No, that's what I'm saying. People that are open. Okay, people that are already open to looking at things. Okay, when you hear, you can't argue a math problem against something that's physical. That makes sense. Okay? Because no matter what they put on paper, if it doesn't tie into tangible reality,
your only argument is the water.
That's all I need.
All right. So
I mean, really, we're not moving. We're not moving. And like I said, I didn't know what it was. Okay, but it is definitely a level stationary plane. The water.
You're right. That's because it's being observed and looked at as on a microscopical level as compared to how big the Earth is. Imagine a giant wine glass sitting over the Earth it's probably going to curve too because it's that big. We're not on a big enough level to curve like that. You know,
Those are his hard-hitting facts
Really,
he talked
really,
about.
really
He
tough to wrap your head
brought
around.
to the
It's
table.
Hey, look, I didn't expect to come in here and let me throw a couple little tidbit facts
no,
out
like I
at you.
said, by far the best guys. Highly enjoyable conversation.
We're shown through school, right, that we have a molten core, okay, right,
Sure.
that causes the Earth's magnetism, okay. Take a blowtorch from Walmart and heat up a magnet and tell me what you
You
pick
know,
up.
when we land on Mars and we start figuring math shit out,
Okay,
y'all are going to have a
I
lot
know.
of shit to explain
Anyway,
then, boy.
anyway.
Woo, I can't wait for this. You coming back. I'm just
Okay,
kidding.
you heat up a magnet,
Gotcha.
okay, it loses its magnetism. It's exactly the opposite. What is the molten core? All right, anyway, so it's exactly the opposite of what a coin can do, right? What do you suppose the deepest hole we ever dug into the Earth is?
Russia did it, didn't they? Like in
Yeah,
the
there you go.
80s or something.
Yeah, like 8 miles, 8 point something, less than
They
10 miles.
supposedly heard the sounds of...
That's bullshit.
No, I don't know
But them drilling that hole is for real. But
Right.
those sounds that came out of the hole
Okay,
is bullshit.
so we haven't gone 10 miles down, okay? So the rest is bullshit. Okay,
We haven't
the reason
seen
we
the
don't
ocean either, though.
The reason we don't know it's bullshit is because they took trivium out of the
So you don't
education.
think some rich motherfucker would have
I'm
been
telling
like,
you, we're
let me
sharp
think
enough
about it.
to
Let me go down there and dig. Let me hire somebody to keep digging and see what
If we
happens.
were taught to recognize bullshit,
You know,
we would have seen it.
You know you can get permits to dig
You
that
would have,
deep.
you would have, for sure.
But you know you can get permits to dig
For
that
sure. I know this
permits
already.
to dig that deep.
Not everybody I talk to, but you two for sure would have seen it. Okay. The only reason that you hadn't seen it before now, or not even saying before now, because the only thing you got to do is open the question. Okay. That's all it took for me. Was for me to go, well, let me look at the claim. That's why I know it's 24,901. That's why I know what the inches per mile squared. That's why I had to learn.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. I had to learn in detail what the hell I was looking at.
For sure.
Okay. Or I was opening myself up to be misled again.
Yeah.
Okay. Because if it's a fucking lie, you're
Open
not
yourself
gonna
for more than just misled.
Yeah,
a lot
yeah,
of shit.
yeah, you're not gonna
ridicule,
get
criticism, like
represent
something that's not real. But
Yeah, I mean, long before that.
You
I
did
was just
research.
talking about, like, I used to tell people years ago, I worked on a magazine crew. Bree went out on a magazine crew when she was, young and stuff.
Gotcha.
I was a car handler, okay? And I get young kids, young, whatever, 18 to 23 years old, riding in my van.
Yeah.
A lot of them were street kids or whatever, and they'd say, like, stupid shit in my van, okay? Around my cell phone, long before Snowden, okay? And I'd be like, clearly I'm not involved in this conversation.
Yeah.
Okay?
Just mentioning it.
Yeah, just mention it.
Wow.
Clearly
Wow.
I'm not involved in this
Okay.
conversation. And Bree can vouch for that, okay?
crazy.
All right?
I mean, it's not crazy, but it's...
Long time ago, okay?
Gotcha.
I would not, I don't have nothing to gain, man.
For sure.
Okay?
Yeah.
You feel me? And this is the...
I mean, you don't seem like you're trying to get anything.
No,
You don't
no.
seem like you have an agenda you're
No.
pushing. You seem like you're trying to figure things out too.
Right, I am, and I'm trying to be
That's
as
exactly
honest
what I got from you. It was like
Yeah.
you're just trying to figure it all out
Yeah.
too.
Right.
I didn't feel like anytime you were like,
I was definitely the
you
whole
know,
time trying to get what he don't really have that whole.
not there,
He's still
man.
trying to figure it out too. Yeah,
I
for
knew
sure.
that just-
I know it's not a globe. Okay, it can't be a globe. It can't be what they told me. Okay, and I don't buy the
There's
ice
a lot
wall
of
dome
evidence to prove
bullshit.
it is a
Okay,
globe.
because that's their side tactic. Okay, I don't buy the ice wall dome. Okay, because
don't buy that either.
that's what they pushed.
I believe there's a lot of proof of
but
curvature there for
there's-
sure.
there's
Some kind of
absolutely-
curvature. If it ain't a sphere of perfect circle, there's some kind of curvature there.
Look, man, there's people that have been looking. Okay, people that have been looking, and the biggest difference in tide, okay, across the plane is 100 fucking feet.
It's more than
Okay?
that. I see it.
Okay.
I seen it downtown last night. I seen it when some bad weather. It retrieved way
I'm
further.
talking
than that.
about the normal tide.
So what
If you took
causes
it-
tsunamis then if we're on a plane? Why?
I don't know. Why would I didn't know what the fuck caused tsunamis before.
But you don't.
I mean,
But I know.
obviously,
It makes sense. But you don't think that there's a lot more why nots if it's flat,
Yeah,
and there's a lot
yeah.
less why nots if it's round?
Yes, exactly why it was done to us, and exactly the trick that's been fucking played on us. They let us believe that they fucking knew everything, and they sold it with fucking detail. Okay, and people's natural thing about the fear of the
So
fucking
then we're
unknown. Now, think
super
about this.
ultimate indoctrinated.
Yeah, think about this. The people's fear of the unknown, okay, combined with the indoctrination, is enough to
that black
enslave
hole was
humanity.
bullshit, right? That black hole was
Fuck yeah,
bullshit.
that was probably really Snoop's blunt.
Yeah, that was a good meme.
That was great. That was great.
Shout out to Snoop, you old fuck. That was a good one. I seen that like back up. Snoop. I was like, oh.
Yeah, but that's probably exactly it.
Classic.
But our fear of the unknown, okay, and our desire to be smart to
It would have
our
been
peers.
really tough as us if it was real.
I mean, it's just.
That was a
mind's
discussion
unknown,
about the
and what I
black
would say-
hole
what
that
I
had
would say to
been
people,
cut out.
okay, is just be really careful during this transition, okay? Because you got to believe, okay, if I'm right at all right, they have a plan B and C and D, okay, and they're not just going to let go of what they've gotten hold of. You know what I mean? And so
Which is us?
Yeah, which is us. obviously.
Human resource.
Right?
Gotcha.
But they really don't have. I don't believe. Okay,
They don't have
any,
they think they do.
any power to keep us.
I got you.
You know what I mean? And I think it's really just a matter of us deciding.
You know,
okay?
they
Everything
said,
is by consent, right?
You know, it is, but you know they said anatomy. How you say the word?
Anatomy,
Anatomy,
yeah.
anatomically wise.
Right.
Your anatomy.
Your anatomy. They said the human body is almost built with a natural defense mechanism to be controlled. Like we're almost uncontrollable.
It's why the Anunnaki thing is so believable.
Yeah.
It really is. I mean, because we appear to have been designed that way. Only thing you have to do is take the orbiting
But
36-mile, whatever people with a thirst for fucking
Nibiru,
gold and replate it with the real
Nibiru,
criminal cabal,
Nibiru.
fucking, Nibiru, cruising around 3,600
the
years.
real aliens, the real bad guys.
It really could be,
They could
okay.
have. But to believe that,
I mean, it
they
really-
also believed in the solar system that they had depicted of all the planets. They knew about planets that astronomers didn't find until the 1940s and shit.
How would
Like,
people?
they
how
had
would-
them depicted on
you gotta
tablets.
think about the people
They
that
had
you're
7 tablets
right,
of creation.
Right. You got to think about the people that you're talking about. Though you're talking about Sumerians, okay? Right. And you could come across on
They
a
had
fucking
a nose,
yeah, but you
yeah.
could come across on a hovercraft, or you could come across on what nose? Did they? No,
They had to know.
no, they didn't.
They had to.
Fuck. Not the nose. Oh man, it's always been this way. No, but you know what I mean? I mean, you could come across on some kind of fucking hovercraft or something, right? Everybody's all.
There was a big chunk taken out there. I don't remember what it
They're
was.
easing it into us.
They sold
through
us.
these movies.
I think if we
I
knew,
agree.
if you look back at 1984, George Orwell shit, we're living in that fucking state, okay? If you take the Internet of Things, 5G, okay, look, we're a few years off. 5G is implemented. You got the Internet of Things, okay, and you implement digital blockchain
But you
currency
know,
and social credit, and you're
we don't
fucking
even know
there,
if that
dude.
5G is going to happen though.
It is going to happen for sure.
It's being fought.
It's going to show. It doesn't matter, man. They got people
They
debating
didn't think marijuana was going to happen,
Man,
but
they
it's
got
happening.
okay. They
It's
got
legal in Florida.
whatever,
Medical
man.
now.
Trump just said like they're rolling that shit out.
Okay,
Yeah,
it's
for
done,
sure.
dude.
They
It's
got
done.
it.
Okay, it'll be the Internet of Things. Your fucking
You know
coffee
he-
pot will be listening to your conversation, and when it's tied to an AI determining social credit, when it's tied to an AI determining social credit, where when you talk about
All right,
something, when you have
let's do
pillow talk, you're shut out of your life.
Because you're talking about AI.
Okay, I'm sorry.
No,
I'm
I like
sorry.
it. But hear this out. All right.
Anyway,
so what was
this is the control mechanism.
There
We
was
can't do
this
this much
thing.
longer.
I don't know if it was from. Have you heard of the Philadelphia Philadelphia experiment.
Right.
You heard of how they some of them jumped off the boat, they landed in the water, and when they landed, they appeared in another time zone or back in time.
Yeah, I've heard
Or
that.
some of them
Yeah,
ahead
I've
of
heard
time
that.
and came when the ship manifested back, they came back from the future wherever they were at. One of these guys claimed when he jumped into the water that he kept falling. It appeared that he was falling, but he wasn't really moving, and then he just kind of landed on ground, and he landed on ground or some shit like that, or he lost consciousness. I don't know. He woke up in a fucking hospital or or some shit like that. It's this dude that's supposedly seen the future. You can look this shit up. I'm not saying it's real, but it's just some shit that I heard. It's out there. And kind of ties into what you're saying because he seen the future and he said everything was ran on AI. He's like there was no governments, there was no systems like that. Everything was ran by a computer through each state or each city.
And you would have no appeal against that.
It's fucking crazy.
And really, your people need to check into social credit in China. It started in 2013. It'll be fully implemented by 2020. It's scary as fuck.
It is.
In 1 year?
2020. Yeah, 2020 will be across the whole fucking country. Okay, and they're moving people. Yes, and they're moving people.
They've always been on some crazy shit. Allowing one kid per household. They always been on some inhumane shit.
Everybody needs to fucking look around and look how many cameras.
Right there, I was saying they were moving people into ghost cities out of the rural areas and
I mean, you already have an
everything.
ID.
So this is heavily edited very carefully to paint a picture.
Okay, the reason for the
they
facial
sign every time they do a Snapchat and do that filter on a face like that. They're doing facial recognition.
Yeah, they joke about when you're saving memes, you're really doing, you know.
Yeah,
I mean,
no, they really are.
I mean, they really are.
You sign and check off on Facebook and every other social media that they can get into all your shit. That's why when you're Googling furniture and it pops up on Facebook when you go on Facebook.
Right, but we're right around the corner from the convenience of your fucking coffee pot talking to your refrigerator and shit. And they're not talking about what are we going to have for lunch. They're talking about what you've discussed. Okay, when they're saying that all your appliances are going to be commuting,
somebody maybe, but they're not talking about it.
They're telling the general public. Okay, when they say all of your appliances will be talking to each other. Nobody ever
Like,
asked, what's the conversation
He's looking for a new fridge. We got to start working better.
I mean, nobody ever asked themselves, look, they're telling you, okay, I think they're required to tell us. Okay, I really do.
It's like Toy Story, like we're going out of commission. We got to rebel.
Right, like that I'm shutting off, he's coming home to warm shit.
He's looking for new toys. Like,
But you know what I mean?
That's
But
crazy.
once they've got
That's
the-
definitely not happening next year.
But anyway, and I feel, you know, if flat Earth was let out at all, okay, it was done at a time that we have a very limited window to do anything about it.
Hurry up, like,
okay,
it's urgent, right?
Right, it's really urgent because 5G will come in, and there will be a day, and let's say by
5G
2030,
works off satellites,
let's say no, it doesn't. Okay, but let's say satellites are nonsense. Look. Here's what everybody needs to do. Okay, you did it probably in your early childhood. Look, Santa's not fucking real. Okay, the globe is not real. All right, it's time to put Santa up. Okay, there's no little fucking red
What's
guy.
real? What's real? On your opinion?
What you see,
The
and I'll
Island,
tell you.
right? Have you seen that movie, The Island?
I don't think so.
Bro,
I'm sorry.
if you've seen all these movies, you'd be putting more shit together. Like, yo, all this makes sense.
No, but
I swear.
And I'll tell you, I was a space buff my whole life. Okay, and I always looked up at the sky
The
with wonder.
Island. Started talking about this shit.
You know?
It started making sense.
You know,
The Island, the movie.
Okay.
It was like
I'll have
Michael
to check
Bay.
it out.
Michael Bay. It was a good movie. It was
I'll
an action
check
movie
it
about clones. They were being like cloned, manufactured, and like maybe the island were being manufactured in, and they're not telling us about that outside island that you're talking about, and then they break out and find out about it.
If the globe is a deception, all indications are that there's a shoreline.
Matrix.
That there's a shoreline very close.
Like fucking.
They wouldn't have gone to such lengths if
Like
it was
fucking
any kind of
Truman show.
if it was any
It's
kind
like
of a
banging
real.
on the shoreline and shit.
Exactly, man.
That's awesome.
That's how you would be.
That's what I'm trying to be. If
All
there's a
right.
shoreline, I'm trying to knock the wall down.
Right on.
Who's
I'm sure I didn't convince
drinking the
anybody.
Kool-Aid with us?
I'm sure I didn't convince anybody, but hopefully nobody will be. I think that people should just be really careful. And if they decide this is something that you want to look into, anyone holding up a map or a model prior to exploration is trying to get in your wallet. They probably got a super chat. They're trying to sell you merchandise. They're fucking full of shit. They're lying to you. They're not telling you the fucking truth. The honest answer is we don't know what the fuck this place is. We need to find out. And the only way that we find out is get enough excited people about the conversation and let's fucking find out. We got militaries. We got ships. We don't have to be rich. These governments are supposed to fucking work for
We
us.
need rich investors though for sure. Back us, bruh.
You know?
What about Alex Jones when he basically said he would invest exploration ship for Eddie Bravo to go to this ice wall and prove all this shit wrong? He said, I got $1 million.
Let's go to the straw man. Let's go to the straw man and debunk the straw man. What a shot.
They wouldn't let him do it. I mean, they
The
wouldn't let
straw man is the ice wall
listen,
dome.
Listen,
Let's go debunk the straw man.
Robert, you being who you are, right, and the person you are and the research you've done. Tomorrow, if you hit the Mega Millions and you had 500 million, you wouldn't go to the ice wall, or you wouldn't try to go figure some shit out.
I've
right?
already thought about this.
You
I've
would,
already
you would,
think-
right? But you would, yes or no? You
Yeah,
would.
yeah, there's
So
many
you don't
people-
think
I
there's
would
not
go
one other person with money that would have done that already?
I don't know. I don't know.
Exactly.
You should look into Fawcett dying. You should look into
What is
Fawcett
that?
dying. He saw what
Right
he
there,
saw.
I said I would go
You got
north.
Sir Richard Branson.
That
right?
the
He's Virgin
ice
Galactic.
wall
He's
was
back
a
in the
straw
Space
man.
Oaks gangbang, and Fawcett wouldn't play, and he's dead man. Crashed on a perfectly sunny day.
Okay. Yeah.
You know what I mean? He wouldn't play.
It's
So-
been interesting.
How it is.
Interesting
How it always
conversation.
is.
I appreciate it.
Yeah,
For sure.
man.
Not a problem.
It's been great.
One of the best guests so far. One of the more informal
Yeah.
guests.
Yes.
She was cool.
Yeah.
So
that you
yeah,
check out the
the guest, what is it? I Level Awakening on YouTube, his channel. Definitely look it up. You can subscribe, comment, like there. We'll be putting it on Level 1 Woke podcast on YouTube channel, and we'll give him.
I'd like to ask both y'all an honest question, and this isn't for the cameras. It's okay if you just go ahead and tell me to fuck off or whatever. Okay? All right. Have I said enough to interest you enough to at least look at it a little bit further and not just dismiss it out? I mean, obviously you're looking at it further because you have me in. Okay, I'm not insulting you. Okay, in your content. Okay.
For me, I'm at the point where I was when I came in, and I'm more toward the globe, but I'm more towards still not believing everything and still looking towards everything. So
You think you're still open to look at stuff?
oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I'm open to look into more stuff.
I'm always not gonna ever look into nothing.
What
I'm
would
always looking into
What
something.
would it take for you? What would it take for you as evidence to cast aside everything that you believe?
More so
about?
physical evidence in front of me, for sure. Like something like experiments I can do on my own, like going outside and measuring shadows and shit like that, and to know. But like it comes down to it's always hard. It's definitely always hard. But I'm still open to the point where you actually made me question a little more than before, for sure. Like a lot of things that I didn't know and a few things that I did, and I still was like, oh, I should look into that deeper then.
Okay.
So
Well, I'll leave it alone.
No, yeah, I want to definitely look into it because I think you had something there with all these ancient civilizations and left and things like that. Sorry, and then that's a big thing for me because I already believed in that. Like, why did all these people just get up and go and they left all this stuff behind? Where they just died off.
They
They just
make
left.
it
even
sense.
science, they try to lie to us
never-
about that.
Exactly, it never made sense to me. So I think you had something there. It's definitely intriguing, and it's I definitely learned a lot.
I think there's a clue in the fact that they never came back,
Right.
which leads me to believe, even if most of them had been destroyed, that
Yeah,
somebody would have come back.
and that makes you think like who the hell are we?
that's what I'm
Are
trying
we
to
the
say the
fucking
whole time.
stragglers?
Like, what you think?
Yeah.
What are we?
Are we the
If we ain't Matrix,
stragglers?
if we ain't-
Yeah, are we the stragglers, or we just didn't go, or
What if
why are we
what's that
left
What's
here?
that slave race from the Anunnaki that they had a rebellion to destroy it, and that's why
Gigi?
a Gigi. Maybe that's who we really are.
I invite you and your listeners
Gigi?
to look at the foundling trains.
What's that?
These huge numbers of kids being transported all across the plane around the mid 1800s.
Ooh.
Okay.
Oh,
I think
I heard
we'll
something.
have to have you on again for sure.
Yeah,
And we'll get into some other stuff.
Yeah,
Maybe
yeah,
not
for
just
sure. Yeah,
the
for sure.
the globe stuff
Right.
or anything. We'll talk about some other stuff.
Right
So,
on.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I'm definitely not like
sounds
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Sit there and chop it up and bullshit for a while. It was interesting.
Okay, so That's what I got on that, right? Had something that was heavily edited, right? Heavily edited to paint a certain picture. All of the solid suggestions that I gave as far as how people could determine avenues of investigation for them to look into to prove the level stationary plane, with the exception of the bullet being fired straight up. But the explanation about the distance on the horizon from left to right, the information about the float glass and how it's made, all those things, plus the other little parts that I mentioned that I'm too tired to remember at the moment, to be honest with you. Um, those were all edited out, and that didn't just happen. If you watch it and you listen to the cadence of the speech, there was amount of care taken how it was put together. So, and actually at regular speed, I may have never noticed. So I'm happy for to try to keep it as brief as possible. That I did speed it up to double speed because I was able to see things that I wasn't able to see. And you saw in the very beginning of this that this guy said that I eventually copped to an ice wall, which anybody that knows me in this community knows how strongly I feel that that's controlled opposition and it's complete bullshit strongman model. And you saw how many times he attempted to attach it to me. And even after hearing my viewpoint, months had gone by between his latest broadcast there, and he's still trying to use the straw man model. Okay? And so I just want to put this up. And if it becomes necessary, I'll go ahead and go through this guy's content. But anybody with an ounce of discernment, if you go through any of his content and listen to the nonsense facts this guy spits out, I may go ahead and do a second short piece on the particular podcast where hour and 26 minutes in, he starts to badmouth me and tell out and out lies. Now, immediately after he did that, he was called off camera. Okay. And the, you know, this is purely hypothetical. Okay. But what would someone do to make you look stupid? And what would they do if you didn't cooperate with them and you didn't give them the ammo? You saw how many times he attempted to change the conversation, and you saw the methods that he used, and he completely, had I not been me, it probably would have worked on me. You know what I mean? And I'll just close here with this clip here I see, and then I'll sign it off. So you guys give me your feedback. I'd really like this Joe Bankston guy to be outed for what he is. He's a sophist. I don't even think his whole premise for his channel is legitimate. He's full of shit. He obviously hadn't researched many projects at all. But he went out of his way, from the timing of the release of his material to the extreme editing to paint flat Earth in a certain light. And, too bad he didn't pick a more gullible target. And we'll close with this. Let me see.
Claims to each other about the objective world, you are duty bound to provide measurable, practical proof. If you don't have it, you're removed from the discussion. Simple as that. Okay? Fuck you!
Joe.